We're starting on time for once. Hello, everybody. Tommy, Kiefer, Eli, George. Yeah, they're all in there. Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, if you go open up in YouTube, you can pop out the chat and then close YouTube and still have the chat open to see what people are saying live. Either you can respond them by typing or just telling or just responding during our cast. Points and things and points and things and points and things. Respond them by typing or just telling or just responding during our cast. Oh, yep. So Mark, if you keep YouTube, but you'll have to. Yeah. We got to save all the good talking content for the actual podcast, but you can just shoot the shit with anyone who's talking in chat right now. Also, how are you guys doing prepping for Adepticon? Moriarty, you're going to Adepticon, right?
I am, yeah.
Right,
I am. My prep is terrible. I have no idea whatever. Yeah.
It's just back to the 5As.
Yeah, exactly. It's the plan B right now. Yeah.
Hi, Kiefer. Coach is dealing with sick children. Sad.
Mark, Mike, do you guys drink?
Yes.
Okay.
Occasionally.
I'm famous for doing milk and cookies on this show. Not tonight.
Oh.
No.
You got wine and cheese.
Well, and now I'm into the bourbon. So, guys, go get something to drink, or I'm kicking you off the show.
Okay, I'll get some bourbon.
Well, you don't have that power.
Shh! They don't know that. Shut up.
I got my beer. I'm saving. Hey, if you're going to Adepticon, and this is everyone in chat too, because if you're there, I'm bringing a gift given to us as OCX by Michael Bird, who's a Patreon of OCX. And at Crate Cup, he gave me a bottle of local New Jersey rum to share around. So that will be passed around to people at Adepticon that would like to come say hi to OCX and also the people of OCX. I've never seen the rum before. Jersey local. I don't know. So general question for you. Do you prefer being called Mike, Michael, Bio?
Michael's good.
Michael's good. Okay.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I have Urban Chestnut India Pale Ale. Urban Chestnut is a St. Louis local brew. They ship a few 100-mile radius, but it's actually the only IPA that I like. Very good.
Oh. So so I'm normally an IPA guy. I have the Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA, which is just one of many that I like. But if it's an IPA that you like and you're not an IPA guy, then I'm assuming I'm actually going to really like that because at the Ohio Regional, I had Moriarty try a local Upper Peninsula brew for Michigan called 521K or something like that. Black Rock from Black Rocks is the company. Yeah, and it's a very mild IPA. He mentioned he wasn't much of an IPA guy either.
No, I actually love IPAs, but that one is delicious.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael has an IPA as well, and it's local. I want to try it sometime eventually.
I'll try to bring something to Adepticon.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Try to remember to bring some of that. So,
Michael, where in Missouri are you?
I'm in St. Louis.
You are St. Louis. Okay, so you're the Arch Alliance.
Yep.
Okay.
I should save it for the show. It's going to start good questions, but if I learned anything from having Coach on before, it's we get into too many good topics both before the show, in the commercial, and after the show that aren't part of the main show.
But that's part of why he just records and just puts it all up on YouTube and just leaves it there.
Yeah.
So it's not missed for
some
those
people
who
can
wish
just
to
watch
seek
it anyway. Yeah. So we're going to do a couple intro. So we're going to generally do opening, intro everybody, general small questions for each of you since it's your first time on the show, and then we'll go into the main stuff. I want to start with the hyperspace legality is huge too, on top of just the wave 3 points.
So much today. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, I was like, all right, wave 3 might be manageable, and then they changed what's available for hyperspace. And I'm like, now what?
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
I have a moderate concern about it, though, and I'll mention it later. Just it seems some factions are apparently getting ahead in the hyperspace, at least optional race. Gordon, do you have any preferences on order of operations?
Well, typically I like it in distinct segments, but I don't know if there's any need for that here, given how overwhelming this topic is, as far as just the single topic of the new factions.
I think we can at least end with Adepticon, just because they can lead into how we're prepping for it.
Yeah, because to some extent, now that we see what's going, like a lot of times you want to talk about the current meta and the recent hyperspace trials, if let's say we were focusing on that, and that's kind of all moot now, don't you think? Because it's all out the window. So why talk about it?
Even the hyperspace trials, you were like, all right, well, I guess we're just getting the new factions. Like, well, we're past that now.
So all we can do is maybe not only talk about an evaluation of what we've just seen as far as the points drop, but also, well, no, what do we think now? What stands out? And specifically in the context of, if you were going to a hyperspace event, what are you bringing? If you were going to an extended event, what are you bringing? You know?
Yeah. I'll be right back. I'll double check and make sure it's not my car that's going off. So I see a car out there with an alarm.
All right, Mark, what did you get? Do I approve of your drink of choice?
I got Beam with this. I always do like a little tiny splash of Pepsi or Coke or something, because Beam is a little too harsh for me otherwise. But
right. That's your version of On the Rocks, is
yeah,
Pepsi.
exactly. Yeah, if it's Bullet or Woodford, which are my two favorite, I'll do it right on the rocks. But Beam is just, I don't want to. I'll get heartburn otherwise if I don't give a little bit of something.
I will save what I'm drinking so that Josh Dunn can pass judgment once we start the show.
Yeah.
He's in the chat, and fellow Kentucky bourbon aficionado. We'll see if he approves or not. I'll ask him now since he's listening. Josh, did you? When are you picking up my bottle, sir?
Okay, not my car. It's still annoying though.
We can't hear it, so your problem.
Yeah, I know. I was making sure it wasn't just my problem though, just in case. I miss anything?
No.
Okay, good. Want to start?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Josh, before we get started, just sell me one of yours. I'll bring $51 for Saturday.
Podcast start 9. Sorry. 40.
All right, hang on one second. Hold on one second. Let me mute this. Got to talk to my wife super quick, and then we'll go.
Okay.
She's giving me the fun thumbs up. Whenever I do this stuff, it just drives her absolutely up a wall. She says, don't you have headphones and we can hook up to the receiver and I can go watch my TV show without having to listen to you rattle on? I'm like, yes, dear. So we did that. It's funny. She's the one person who has absolutely no interest in anything I have to say as far about X-Wing. Okay. All right. You tell me when. I think I got my little script here in front of me that Coach always does.
Go when you are.
Oh, ready? They'll just do whatever? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, normally I'm used to having to hit ready, 3, 2, 1, pause, go. Okay. Then I'm
Do you want a 3, 2, 1?
No, I'm just going to start screaming it. It'll be obvious, right?
Sure.
Fine. Good morning, X-Wing. Hey, this is not a test. This is OCX Radio. Time to rocket from the Delta Pilot to the 4BZ. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the OCX Radio podcast, broadcasting via a pirated signal yet again from beautiful downtown Louisville, Kentucky. My name is Gordon the Worst Berg, and joining me today is none other than OCX Ace of Legend, Ryan Ontopski.
My mind is blown today. There's too many things to consider. I don't know where to start. Let's figure it out.
That sounds like a show to me. Also joining us is Hangar 19's own Mark Moriarty.
Do I need a little tagline? I don't have one prepared. But
I gave it to you. Your Hangar 19's Mark.
Okay,
now,
good.
Now, look, I've always been calling you Mark Moriarty, like the villain from Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And just like I always butcher Nick Ruvo's name and call him Ruvio, have I been butchering yours? Is there like a silent E-I in the middle of that? Moriarty I should be doing, or what?
Technically, yeah, but you can just Moriarty is correct.
Yep, forget it. Your name has been legally changed. Too bad. And rounding us out is we're also joined by Michael Biophysical Simon out of St. Louis. Hey, Michael.
All right, how are you doing?
Michael is famous for running two defenders far further into a tournament than any human has any business doing. How you doing, buddy?
Good. They gave me an Interceptor Christmas present today.
Yeah,
so
by putting it into hyperspace, right?
So exciting.
Yeah. All right. So the reason I am once again, quote unquote, hosting the show, and by that I mean I do the intro, then Ryan basically leads us down a merry path with all the content, and then I take all the credit as host, having done absolutely nothing. That is how this is going to go. So what do we think? Basically, how else are we going to talk about anything other than the information that was bestowed upon us a day early, right? It's kind of like Christmas all over again. We got the points information for the upcoming Wave 3 release, which is technically supposed to take place officially tomorrow across most of the world if you're lucky enough to get the product. And it just seems like enough of a thing that's going to take up an entire show. I mean, what else is there to talk about except maybe Adepticon at the end, right? Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Nothing else really to talk about on that other than the fact that I don't know. You think it's a day early? I think it's a few days late, personally.
Why?
I liked it. So they set a moderate precedence with obviously very early. I was never expecting as early as when we got the first official points for Wave 1, right? So that was like in the summer, way before it came out in September. Then Wave 2 rolls around. They give us points 2 weeks prior to its launch. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're seeing a little bit of like a theme pattern. So I was like, when I heard that they were not going to give us points till the day of, I was like, man, anyone who is not in this time zone or country is likely going to end their day by just getting points at their store for the very first time. Anyone who got it mailed early, which is actually more people than I thought from what I'm seeing on social media, don't have it until now. So granted, I am extremely happy we have them today because it's a podcasting day.
But you're basically saying it's not a strict hard launch on getting product, and so it's just driving everybody nuts who's got it in their hands and can't start list building.
It's driving me nuts because I couldn't build a thing.
I see.
Plan.
It drove me nuts because
I don't know how you buy anything without knowing.
Thank you, Michael. That was exactly the point I was going to make, which is you need to know the points so you know how many ships to get. It's not enough to say, well, I think these droids are going to be super cheap. You want to know exactly, am I buying 7? Am I buying 8? Do I get away with a list of 5? You can't know.
Mm-hmm. The big thing for me was that I had a very certain squad that like drew me into Republic because I was all separatist since it was announced. And then I saw the ARC 170 article. I was like, oh, okay. So if Plo Koon does his thing and then they can always do the 7th Fleet Gunner thing, that seems pretty good. And then I was like, thematically, I went Plo's bros, like his Wolfpack squadron and his ARC 170 guys, Wolf and Sinker and all that. And from there, I was like, I really want to make this squad, and I'm having a hard time making it exactly the way I want now.
All right.
But I'm finding ways.
Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, obviously we're setting the table. It's going to be points, and Wave 3 is going to dominate this show. Mm-hmm. But let's get the important stuff taken care of first. Now, in the past, because this is a drinking show, correct? I mean, there's no getting around that. And when I did it, my own bent was going to be as if I was going to have Stay on Target influence the show. So we did milk and cookies. Not tonight. No, sir. No, sir. This is an alcohol required show. Ryan?
We're in the clear for beer.
Show it. What are you drinking?
I am drinking from Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA.
Okay. That means nothing to me.
It's a beer. It's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yay. All right. Now, Mark.
Yes.
Okay. Not only are you going to show us what you're drinking, but tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you. And we're talking about the two people who also don't listen to Stay on Target, Stay on Target, and know you through our show, right? And show the drink, and let's. I
have a little bit of Beam on the rocks with a splash of Pepsi.
Okay.
My name is Mark Moriarty. I'm from Indianapolis. I play with the crew up here, Hangar 19. I think that's about it. Yeah.
No. We need something. Maybe we call you Mark, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Moriarty, is that what we call you?
That sounds hurtful, though.
I guess
it's not hurtful.
Something positive reinforcement, right?
Mark, explain yourself. You were the one who told me this.
That I think I just told you I don't mind losing regional finals. Yeah, I think just being there in the first place, I'm more excited about than anything. So winning is kind of house money at that point. So
I would say, based on his actions and what I heard about after I left Ohio and his offer to McHale, win or lose, I think it should be the classy Mark Moriarty.
For those who don't know, Mark offered his world's, let's say Mark had won the Ohio hyperspace trial. He gave it to McHale anyway, because you can't go, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't. I don't think I would go even if I could.
Even if you had one.
Yeah.
So obviously you should have given it to me. Okay. So, and Michael, let's see what you're drinking.
Got Bourbon Chestnut IPA. Bourbon Chestnut's a St. Louis brewery, and their IPA is pretty good.
Okay. Now, a lot of us know you in the X-Wing community, but just in case someone lives under a rock and they don't know you, who are you?
I post on the forums as Biophysical. I really write more than anything else. The writing outstrips the accomplishments, certainly. So that's
you do have a blog going on, and I want to know what's going on. We've got all these blogs out of St. Louis. What's the deal with that? You and Midwest Scrub. What's the deal? Let's pimp your blog. And where can we go read it?
So it's at starfightermafia.com. Shouldn't be too hard to find. I think the reason that St. Louis is putting blogs out and it's had probably some more success than they've had in probably 2.0 is that really at the end of 2.0, the last 6 to 8 months is kind of when St. Louis really started to ramp up the competitive scene. I guess like people played a lot for years and years, but like people sort of tried to organize and get better, more intently and more seriously. But nobody ever really wanted to run like the annoying meta list that everybody complains about. Like someone would run it for a few games so people would be exposed to it, but like no one would ever like lean on it and take it to tournaments so much. And then 2.0 came out, and there was the whole St. Louis competitive community kind of really got going out of the gate, and did pretty well in a few regional events nearby here. Like Matt Carey won the Gold Squadron Classic, and then the Murray Regional here. The St. Louis team and Outrider Cup was tied for the most number of wins, despite having basically never getting to pick the picks they wanted because they were always ahead on wins.
And despite not having you or another pilot there, right? Because of the weather there.
The
you didn't even have your best players necessarily.
The team captain was running lists that he'd never played before and went like 3-1, which was absurd.
Wow.
Yeah, we were totally screwed if everyone actually made it from St. Louis. You guys showed up and dominated.
So I think it's that combination of like really running 2.0 style lists at the end of running 2.0 style lists hard at the end of 1.0 got people set up pretty well to do well in 2.0. So we've been having a bit of success lately. We'll see if it keeps going.
All right. And finally, me, and this is for Josh Dunn's approval or dismissal. I am drinking Wild Turkey 101 tonight. He mentioned in the chat that he was drinking Heaven Hill 6-year last night. That is what I had last night. Tonight, I stepped up just a little bit with the Wild Turkey 101. So we will get either a thumbs up or a thumbs down from Josh. I think it's fantastic for just under $20 as a bourbon. Okay. So let's get into it. Today we had the points release for Wave 3. So the first thing is we want to know how much it's going to cost to run 1,000,000 droids, or what are those Jedis and the Ether Sprites going to be, etc. Let's go around the horn here, just real quick off the top. What stands out for you? Let's get with our guests first, and then we'll get our thoughts from Ryan here. So, Mark. Gordon, I know there's too much to process. Well, do I mind you doing your show how you want to do your show?
No,
absolutely not.
Interject a little bit. Let's do the twist, because we've done this before with OCX. A winner and a loser from each person. Like, what's after the points come out? Like, what's your big winner? What's your big loser?
Fair enough. Mark, do you have any idea yet?
I don't have a loser yet. I haven't. I barely have any idea what's going on with CIS. I haven't looked into that a lot, but I would say the loser might be, or I think the winner is Ahsoka right now. She seemed, just at first glance and with people playing it tonight, one of the best pilots in the Ether Sprite.
All right, so for those who don't know, Ahsoka Tano is a 47-point costed Ether Sprite. She's Initiative 3, and her ability is after you fully execute maneuver, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 1 and spend a Force token. That ship may perform an action even if it is stressed. So don't you think the pressure then is on for Ahsoka to fly in tandem with a wingman to get that ability range 0 to 1, but then you create action economy against her buddy, like, say, an Anakin or whatever? Is that what you're talking about?
It works on herself too. So
that's true, 0 to 1.
Yeah. So you get both actions, but what's nice too is it works out there after going over rocks, like she just always gets an action with that ability. So I think that with just the Delta 7, and then even, she's a PS3, so Supernatural or Battle Meditation are cheaper on her. So I think she's just a pretty efficient ship with that ability for 55 points with Supernatural, or 56 with Battle Meditation. Either of those could be good. So that's not including a config, but that seems like the standout, just in the hours after the points upgrade.
Now, are you looking at Ahsoka to be a base as is Jedi Starfighter, or are you looking at either of the titles or configs? Right
now, I think Delta the 7B seems like the clearly better one. I was kind of surprised how expensive the calibrated laser targeting was. But just for 4 points on her, that's not bad. But if you're spending 2 Force a turn, or at least 1, you're not always going to be able to have that X1 to spare for the calibrated laser targeting. So I think 7B seems nice, and the fact that it's tied to initiative helps a little bit with her. But,
do you guys have concerns that the 7B title lowers the defense dice from 3 to 2? That makes me just twitch. I know 3 tack dice is good. I know a couple more shields are good, but talk about pressure to really, really fly and not get shot. It just makes me nervous.
I think that's the best way I think that's how they're going to be good in the first place, is avoiding shots as much as possible. So
mitigating the loss of agility by not getting shot, but at the same time, you're looking at ships that have all these crazy special abilities and pretty much passive calculate tokens to recharge every turn because Force charge. And you're looking at them basically being a chassis like an X-Wing, which we know is pretty good just at its base chassis.
Kind of, but that's, those X-Wings are 4.2s, and this is, a 3.2?
If it gets the 2 shield, it becomes a 3/3.
3/3/3. Oh, so sick math, lol. Okay, right, 6. You're right. It is like an X-wing.
And we have to remember too, like they're pretty fast. They're not. I mean, they're faster than an X-wing because they have pretty easy boost access. So you can get, isolated places to jump on people and get shots in, and maybe take 1 shot in return instead of a full squad's worth of shots. So that seems pretty okay with 6 hit points to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, Ahsoka's very powerful in that her ability works even when she's stressed. So she's getting an action when she K turns the 4K, the 5K, the 2 slew. So those are all very good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So no, and you think no losers necessarily? You're just kind of keen on Ahsoka at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we're regretting having you on. Okay, Michael. I know you are an Imperial loyalist through and through. Can you find it in your heart to fly one of these factions? If so, which one?
I mean, Republic
out?
is basically, just young Empire. So.
I was wondering if you're going to go there. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the clones are pretty fantastic. The problem is the clones and the Torrents are terrible.
Those Torrents are brutal, huh?
Like, I don't know. I feel like TIE Fighters and Z95s are they're going to be slightly overcosted right now. Usable, right, but slightly overcosted. And that Torrent gets an extra hull, which is not terrible. It's nice to have that hit point, but its dial is so bad. You're not getting, the really fast TIE Fighter dial or the somewhat faster Z95 dial. You're just, got this V-Wing dial with a ship that hits like a TIE Fighter and is slightly tougher than a Z95. And like for 25 points, it's borderline. But then once you go beyond that 25-point Gold Squadron guy, like it gets steep real fast, and you get like this initiative all the way to initiative 5 oddball. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's 38 points for that chassis with it's decent ability, but man, that price is steep compared to the 38 points that you see on ships that are not so bad.
Are they worth bringing some kind of ordnance or like when you look at synchronized console or anything along those lines? Are these
if you're gonna make something like the name guys work like Oddball, where he's initiative 5 and he gets locks for his ability, like that's probably if he's gonna work, it's gonna be through ordnance or the targeting sync kinds of things. To me, that feels a little bit too hopeful. Like you are paying extra points in hopes that your gimmick works, and if your gimmick works, you are okay. But if your gimmick doesn't work, it's horrible. Instead of just being decent and good if your gimmick works. I think even if your gimmick works, you're not really going to be in good shape. You're just going to be at baseline okay. But I mean, I haven't seen them on the table, so I mean, obviously, it's very, very initial assessment. So
okay. Yeah. What about so this was your kind of. So you kind of poo-pooed the V19s. Did we talk about something you're excited about?
I mean, the ARCs seem like the complete opposite because what are the X-Wing, Blue Squadron X-Wings, 42 points or 41 points? And that 104th Fleet, or 104th Squadron, whatever it was, generic ARC is like 42 points. Like for 1 point, you lose an agility but gain 3 hull in the rear ARC. That seems pretty okay.
If you were watching just I mean, we're coming on at between like 9:30 and 10 o'clock Eastern. Let's see, Gold Squadron's got its live streaming going on right now with the Wave 3 premiere. They were allowed to open product early, and that was just on the table, right? 4 of those arcs, I think Dion was flying.
I mean, you could do 4 arcs, and then you have plenty of 8 points per ship, so you got 32 points to do upgrades within that 4. Or if you have just like 3. A Jedi with battle meditation to just feed them and drive them forward and give them extra actions and stuff. And that seems okay. They're going to take a lot of hits and they're going to put damage out and they're going to run away and shoot from the rear arc, and that all seems good.
Okay, so those are the standouts. All right, Ryan, your thoughts. What stands out? What's a loser?
I'd want to build on a couple things Michael said. So if you're talking about Oddball's price in the V19, you can immediately compare that to Lulo and they're the same price. And then you think, wow, that's steep. The V19s, already mentioned, I think they're a downer. I think nothing in the Separatist for me is a downer. I'm really questioning the point cost on calibrated laser targeting. That seems like a lot on some of those. I know it's scaling, and then yes, higher initiative should be able to line up the bullseye more often, and that is adding a almost guaranteed result for Jedi. But you're counting on the bullseye. I think that happens once, twice a game, depending on how aggressive or safe you are with the Jedi. It could work on some ships. I don't think it's enough price differential in my mind to Delta 7 to say, if I'm going to take one of the two, I'm just going to make the points investment and go up to Delta 7B or whatever. I think the points investment into calibrated laser targeting are very niche, can be powerful. Like, I'm still looking at it in some places. But I think you might see Jedi Starfighters either have Delta 7B as a config or nothing and take a modification like spare parts or something like that.
I think where the calibrated laser targeting was interesting is basically if you fly these ships in a way where you are only getting shot once per turn, usually, this is with like an Obi-Wan or a Anakin who has lots of force and lots of pilots, lots of initiative. If you think you're only going to get shot once per turn, that 3 agility with a evade and a force or focus or whatever, that's going to shrug off 1 attack per turn pretty well. And that if you're then also triggering that calibrated laser targeting bullseye, that 2 dice or 3 dice plus 1 eyeball, if you have the mods for it, is a statistically better attack than 3 or 4 dice just natural, and so that's like, I think that's the idea, is if you really trigger that a bunch and really don't get in arcs very much, you're getting 1 arc a turn, like, you can really do a lot of damage for a lesser cost than that 7B title. But that's, I think, the kind of thing that we really have no way to judge right now. It's only we can only tell once actually those get on the table, and maybe when they're on the table for weeks at a time before someone really figures out how to use those CLTs right.
Yeah, it's a pure flying thing, and if you can get it often enough, you're going to start using it more. If you combine it with any of the arcs that have the 7th Fleet Gunner, that's a potential like 5 dice total you can generate. If you get the range 1, you get the 7th Gunner to knock it up to 4, which is the max on the card's wording, but you're adding the CLT afterwards, which makes it 5. So you can get a pretty good surprise attack off with that.
And the Jedi are kind of interesting that lots of them have like sort of support abilities. And so they can, but it's not like a dedicated support thing. So like they can do, just based on their force and their own actions, they can do their thing. But whoever doesn't have the shot that turn can kind of lend their power to the person that does have the shot that turn. And so you're kind of putting your thumb on the scale of wherever it's important in the battle at any given turn.
You think it's worth running just a fleet of Jedi?
I have no idea.
I don't know. The arcs look like such big hammers of damage. Yeah. I'll be interested to see how people run multiple Jedi Starfighters. I just don't know where the damage in the long run's coming from. I mean, granted, we're looking at lists with 5 A-wings, but granted they have a back arc and all that. But we've seen ships with 2 dice/3 dice do a lot now, and they have a lot of mods. So there's going to be either an interesting combination that occurs that, like, for example, Anakin could be the lead Jedi, and you have pilots like Sacy Tin that helps his dial to choose where he really wants to go as a wingman, or you can use Luminara as a wingman, because Luminara is basically sensor jammer now. She's saying, hey, 1 of your hits is now becoming a focus if I spend a force, as long as they're not in the bullseye. So, and we know how strong Sensor Jammer was in 1st edition. And that, that's probably one of my winners is Luminara. She's at a really solid price point. Like the drop from I5 Jedi to I4 and below is significant enough to really consider those with their abilities, whether it's Mace, Luminara, Sacy Tin, Ahsoka. Like they all have cool abilities, and their points drop far enough for us to say, okay, these are good to bring into my list either as one or together.
Yeah, like if you just said Ahsoka and Anakin, for example, right? Like Anakin is the one doing most of the stuff, and Ahsoka could be kind of out of the fight and not doing much with, either nothing or with the calibrated laser targeting as far as that configurations goes, and really could just be feeding Anakin stuff. But then all of a sudden, if the time is right, I mean, Anakin doesn't need support every turn, so you can bring her in, 3-bank boost her in, and then do, a 3 dice plus focus shot on somebody, and that's a very substantial shot, and she doesn't really need, just because one turn you don't use your support doesn't mean you're wasted, so you get the extra shot and you don't use support that turn, but that's fine, and then can cycle out and support Anakin the next turn again, and so I think that'll be interesting, being able to kind of fluidly go back and forth between that.
Mm-hmm. While we're on the topic of a list flying mostly Jedi starfighters, Mark, I think that was what you were looking forward to. Is there anything that kind of catches your eye in terms of list composition for Jedi starfighters?
I was just trying to build one, and it's so hard to tell because it's like somebody, I think, Josh mentioned it in the chat. The first thing I built was what is Anakin with Supernatural and the title. And at 110, it's like that feels it's tempting.
Hello, Kylo Jr.
Right, exactly. Well,
Kylo Senior.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Kylo wishes he could be in.
That was the joke, but thanks.
Yeah. Especially because that Anakin kind of has prime thrusters built in with his ability.
Pretty much nine nubs ability.
All right, bring up your Yazby or whatever. Just bear with me. Tell me, this is how bad I am at this, but this is where my brain went with this, because I just hate, because Ryan earlier, remember, like on my show, I was hoping that the title was going to be cheap, and you said you're out of your mind if that's going to be cheap, and so it's scaled according to initiative, so it is obviously the most expensive on Anakin. Hear me out. Let's say we don't run the title on Anakin. So now you're in the 2-3 configuration, right? But Anakin wants to live at range 1, correct?
He can stay tight to the engagement because if he does a red maneuver and clears the stress with his ability, he can boost back in to someone's face and line up what he needs to.
Right. But, and you've got your ability, you can get rid of stress like this, but you could also, but that's typical, what if we put R4 Astromech on it and now look at his dial and it's just gross because it's just nothing but a sea of blue, and so you can see those engagements where you want to stay at range 1 because you're doing the 2 sloop or whatever, right? But if you're not going to go the title and you're still trying to leverage his, like, I always look for synergies among mechanics that they're all sharing in common. So in this case, the bullseye mechanic. If you're trying to leverage the bullseye mechanic, it tends to be easier to do when you're at range 1. So what do you think about, say, predictive shot and R4 Astromech on Anakin, and yet now you've still got him as a cheap 66-point initiative 6, and now you have room in your list for other things?
Predictive shot, you may spend a force if the defender's in your bullseye.
It synchronizes with the fact that you're only rolling 2 to 3 dice anyway. So if we're trying to go on the cheap with Anakin, then why not leverage abilities that all mesh along those lines? Instead of being the hammer of 4 dice, well, let's really maximize the 2 to 3 attack.
Yeah, depending on the situation, you're basically saying, I'm going to spend a force to be wedge, kind of. You're like in the best advantage. You're saying if I get 1 or 2 hits, if you had the more agility than I did, you're at least throwing equal amounts to me. So it's kind of a very soft wedge for spending your force. I'm not sure if predictive ends up being like the way to go, and how often that triggers versus how beneficial it really is. Because
I tend to be underwhelmed.
If we're looking at the meta right now, we're just seeing rebel beef. That's mostly 1 to 2 agility.
Sure, right. So if it's nothing but what you know is going to happen though is there's going to be, everyone's going to want to play with their toys a little bit. So It depends. If it's nothing but a transfer from Rebel Beef to nothing but arcs, then right, we're still back to just one evade dice, and that's kind of wasted.
Yep.
I think it would be defensible if you could. It's the order, I think, because you have to spend it before you roll dice. I think it's better to have the soft focus than to use that ability.
Oh yeah, you don't even get to see your results.
Yeah, if it was after everything, and then it's like, oh, I only have one hit, and you're range 2 through or range 3 through a rock or something, then you spend it. And
right. Part of the reason why I don't mind it so much is because it's 4, and then it's like short of bringing supernatural, there's just nothing leaping out at me as anything I'd want to take anyway. So it's like, well, what's 4 points? Who cares?
Yeah, sure.
That's like 2 points in 1
To
point.
some degree, if you're trying to keep Anakin cheap, you may as well not even use a force.
Right. I'm just saying but what's 4 points in the list, assuming we're not trying to be super tight on like going for a bid or I'm looking for something to spend. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
If you're a little flexible with points and you think 4 is fine, then probably it's easy to go up 2 more and do sense and help the rest of your squad out.
You like sense better?
Mm-hmm. A lot better. Really, every single time I'd take sense out of more than the whatever it is.
Okay, am I missing something though? But why would you want to put sense on an initiative 6? Isn't that something meant for the low initiatives because you have no clue?
It helps everybody else out. It's not like he's the only one that. It's not like Anakin looks and doesn't tell his friends. Like
and
the same person looking
these
at
ships
it, right?
have double reposition capability, so incoming blockers.
Okay, well, maybe I'm missing something. It says during the system phase, you may choose one ship at range 0 to 1, look at style, spend a force. You may choose a ship at 0 to 3 instead. Isn't that taking place though on the ship that belongs to Anakin? So that's not happening till
in the system phase.
That's
oh god, right, engagement. Duh. My bad. Okay, right. Okay, cool.
Even then, cheap Anakin might even like the R4 P17 is when you fully execute a red, you may spend a charge and do an action even while you're stressed. So he could action from the stress, align his arc to remove the stress with his force, and then go to town.
Okay.
So, but Gordon, who are your winners and losers?
Man, my job was to read the intro. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed in the V19. The one thing I like about it is that 5 hull. I think that's such a huge difference. If you've ever flown the quad jump, the tugs, right? I know they're super annoying and have that amazing, powerful ability. But what always stood out for me was those ships tended to stay on the board just longer than you really, really wanted to because of that 5 health as opposed to 4. So I like the fact that they're 5 health, but I look at all of their stuff and I'm like, I just don't care. And I'm a little sad because I pre-ordered 2 of those kits and I've now got 4 of these things. I'm like, great, I'm not going to use any of them. So
hey, you never know. There might be something to synchronized council. Maybe not just with missiles, but just effective 2 dice shots.
Yeah, I looked at that and I went, okay, something new. And I'm like, I tried to head sim this and I'm just the worst at this. And I'm like, I just have no use for this. It just doesn't seem to do any good for me.
Well,
but maybe I missed something.
I think Oddball is the best enabler of synchronized council or Jedi, because Jedi can just lock as their action. They could still take the modification slot for synchronized council, then start the train, pass it on. Oddball's a good one because he just needs to perform a red maneuver or do a red action. And if the enemy ship's in the bullseye arc, you can get a free lock. You could put something like Debris Gambit on him and not be range 0 to 1 of rock and get an evade target lock.
Or you could put Juke on him. And so you do your barrel roll, get the evade, get the red evade, get the free target lock, and then shoot with the target lock and Juke.
Yep.
That's good. I like that. There you go. All right.
43 points is not.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Fun, but it's not like nothing. So I mean,
no, that's pretty good.
That might look interesting.
Sure. But in most cases, the V19s, for me, it's just Tucker down. Like, Tucker at 31 seems okay. Take an evade action. Friendly shoots in your arc range 1 to 2 or something. Get a focus for later when I actually do attack. Mm-hmm. And then the blue for something that's cheap to take dedicated. But that's still 32. Dedicated, I don't know if it's worth 3 points. Maybe 2. And then the gold 25-point filler. It's whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's use this as a bit of segue, because if you were looking for a winner, I pride myself on not paying attention to any of this stuff until I can know the points and came out. So, of course, what I do at work today, I didn't work. I just screwed around with this stuff. So let's transition. Let's use this as a segue to get into.
Hey, Gordon?
Sure.
This wasn't out until like 3 o'clock. So, like, what do you do for the first 2/3 of your day?
Well, 3 o'clock your time, sir. I'm an hour ahead of you. I got a whole extra hour of screwing around.
Okay, sorry. The 5 hours beforehand, what were you doing at work instead of 6?
Sleeping. Okay. So let's talk about the other faction there. And I think what stands out for me is because I hadn't looked at any of this, and then I fired up Maul, and I'm like, am I basically reading this right? Is he like Dengar or Quick Draw, whatever? We're finding a way to do an extra attack.
Yeah,
those are huge. That's
powerful. Great. That's front arc's big on a big base.
I love that, and I love the fact that he's like, what, 65? So he's just basically a 30-year list as a base cost, as opposed to even being more on what's supposed to be a large ship. And then, pick something like I'm not really a fan of either of these titles, but what is this, a new option? Tactical relay upgrade? That seems kind of cool.
Whoa, you're saying you're not a fan of Scimitar at 4 points? That seems okay. That's one thing that I forgot to mention if I wanted to transition to Separatist. That's a steal.
Okay, I think my problem with it is when I see a super large base, I don't think of it as being necessarily hypermobile and repositioning. And I tend to rely on those, call it a crutch if you want, but if I want to line up I'm sorry, I'm just too used to like Sunter, where I need all of those shenanigans to just even get the bullseye going in the first place. Otherwise, I never line up bullseyes. It's impossible. And I've been flying 5 A-wings just like you. How often have I gotten a crack shot off? Never. I just can't line up the freaking bullseye.
You would have been fine.
I have tried, and then what happened? It turned out I got it. I didn't get any of them, and I wish I had on Greer like you told me to stay with. So, but which tactical? I'm a fan of this K2B4. Like what is it? When a friendly ship at 0 to 3 defends, spend a calculate token, and if it does, add an evade result, unless the attacker chooses to gain a strain token. I like that ability. So I was just looking at Maul and that tactical upgrade. Just that alone, I thought was pretty cool.
Well, so what is interesting about that, and I'm iffy on this tactical relay, because if it's a kill shot, your opponent will definitely take the strain and say, I'm going to kill your ship now because I'm not letting you add that evade. But you're right, on Maul it can get, you can do some shenanigans, because Maul doesn't inherently get a calculate. He doesn't have access to it. You need to spend a calculate to get an evade. But we have this nice little vulture. He's a friendly little helper, DFS 311. Have you ever watched Rick and Morty?
My nephew showed it to me last year, so yes.
And you gentlemen, besides Gordon, watch Rick and Morty?
No.
Man, I'm left out with this one. All right, for everyone else who's listening and watching online, he's like the pass the butter robot, because all his job is to pass a calculate. This guy is unique. At the start of the engagement phase, you may transfer 1 calculate token to another friendly ship at 0 to 3. So if he passes his calculate to Maul, Maul now then has a calculate to give himself a free evade. And then can use K2B4. And on top of that, it was interesting to find out that the Infiltrator has 2 crew slots instead of just 1. General Grievous is a very cheap crew at 3 points, which seems solid to also mitigate damage. While you defend after neutralize result step, if there are 2 or more hit or crit results, you may spend 1 charge to cancel 1. After a friendly ship is destroyed, recover it. So, free evade, knockdown damage, might be taking 1. Hate naturally goes on Maul.
Yeah, it seems to synergize with, if you're going to run the Infiltrator, Maul, whoever, and then you're going to run it with a droid spam fleet, right? List to go with it. As those things easily pop, you just keep regenerating that charge so that you can use this to keep your big gun alive longer.
Yeah. And to the Scimitar, I'm less worried about the whole like get bullseye for jam. The big thing with the Scimitar that I think what it's not really showing you when you look at it on Yasby is it gaining that cloak? And I'm not looking to use Maul to cloak a lot. I'm using it for the initial, okay, I'm going to decide if I want to do a pre-move boost and then 5 straight or 3 bank and like super flank speed with a big base get into a shot. And from there, it's just like I don't care about recloaking. That's what the mitigating damage is for.
Yeah, it's meant to get you into the engagement, I think.
If you really want to annoy people, put Chancellor Palpatine on him. Now I have Rebel Captive.
Right, like you make that initial engage hard to predict, but also like if maybe you just took a lot more damage than you thought you were, and you're in a bad position, cloaking with even like 4 hit points left, a big difference in how long you stay alive.
Yeah, especially when you have 3 agility when you cloak, and now you have free force because you have hate, and you likely have at least 2 or 3 every round. And then, hey, this K2B4 might still be working for you, and you're still getting a calculate from this random droid that's saying, here's a free of 8 every turn.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's use this as an opportunity then to segue into droids, because I think the question that was on everyone's mind was, how many of these do I buy? How am I going to run in a list? What is a good list? So even if you haven't looked at it, fire up your Yasby 2.0s or whatever, and let's take a look at this. I'd like to come up with a droid list. What do we think is going to be good? Do we want to run a bunch? Do we just want them to be filler for the remaining points in the list because we got 50 some odd points left over? Is the goal to spam nothing but buzz droids as far as the eye can see, where we've just got tons and tons of these things, 6 or 7 on a list and 1 controller, and we're just passing calculates all over the place? What do you guys think?
I guess I was surprised that the Discord missiles were even more expensive than the energy charge shells. You only get 3 Discord missiles. They're 6 points. You have to specifically hit the end of the 3 bank 3 straight. It is area denial, but only 4 points for energy shell charge is a good starting point for anything to maximize your droids for 3 dice.
Like, I don't know that it's good. Like, I don't know that it's the best, but it's hard to say that 8 base droids with energy shells is like a bad list,
Right, but you're kind of going all in on setting up the one shot. And then what is it going to take to set up that kind of attack again? Like a couple turns, right? One's about reloading, whatever it is.
You do your main shot. Some of your focuses get eaten up on defense, right? So like they shoot at you, and you spend whatever or calculates. You spend whatever calculates you need to keep guys alive, right?
Right.
And so you say you spend 3 calculates trying to keep guys alive, and you lose a guy, right? So then you've got 4 energy shell shots, or 4 or 5 energy shell shots that you're sending back, and you do that, and that does much damage. In the next turn, you've got some guys that have no energy shells, but some guys still have energy shells because they spent their calculates keeping some other guys alive, right? And so then the guys that have spent shells rush up to range 1, because they're shooting 3 dice anyway. And the guys that don't have energy, the guys that still have energy shells left can go slower or are on the back rank. And so the guys up front are blocking or getting range 1. The guys in the second rank are doing energy shells still.
Maybe with how you fly a list, sir, but when I do it, the guys that still have it available aren't getting shots that turn, and it's super annoying.
There's also the point of, and this might come to completely like, what are you facing against? You have the choice of breaking them up into 4 groups of 2, or 2 groups of 4, or 1 gigantic blob, or 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2, and just make whatever sort of kill box you want, or just say joust with 8.
Do you want to put grappling straps on these things? Do you want to hop onto these rocks and just kind of spin around and play tower defense? Does that seem like a way to play the game to you guys?
You can put grappling struts on 2 of them if you do all 8. You could.
I don't know if I want 8. Maybe. I don't know.
You essentially have 8 points left over if you just do all the base ones with energy shell charge. So you can upgrade a few of them to the Separatist drone. So I have a couple of I3s. Actually, you can do it to half of them. Half I1, half I3. Front line, back line.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a good point that's brought up. Okay, so we're talking about landing on the asteroids. You can't land on the gas clouds, correct?
Nope. Has to be debris or rock.
And everyone's bringing these things so they can set up their 1.0 auto thruster moments, right? So it's like if you're going all in that strategy, you're only getting 3 of your asteroids.
I don't think it's going to work because they're so small. Like, if you're an ace trying to hide behind those, there's going to be a lot of times when you
I get it, but initially everyone's bringing it. I mean, there's double reasons. One, they're trying to set that up until they figure out you're right, they're too small. But 2, if this becomes a thing, these freaking, grappling droids, you don't want to help them out by giving them rocks to land on. So you bring the gas clouds as well.
Most of what I built so far has not included grappling struts. I think that 3 points starts to add up a lot once you put a lot of them throughout the list. So I think we're going to see these things actually flown much more often than we're going to see them on a rock.
Have you had talks with Nick? I know he's all in on this, Mark. You're going to have to deal with this whether you want to or not. Any thoughts? Anything to offer?
Yeah, I don't know what he's on. He was flying it tonight. I can tell you he has not. He said earlier he hasn't been this excited for X-Wing since Scum was released. And
some people just want to see the world burn, Mark, and Nick is one of those guys.
That's definitely true. God love him. But I think he's definitely excited about how the grappling struts work, but I don't know if it's, I think it's at this stage probably just a cooler idea than maybe something that you can actually leverage. To me, it almost doesn't feel like they're an advantage. They might be, but I don't know. Staying stationary keeps them pretty.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I'm not a huge fan of keeping a ship stationary. That seems like a good way to just get blown up.
Yeah, I'm not, I looked at them before we found out they costed points. I'm not in on them just staying in a place and play, quote unquote, tower defense. I looked at that as I can literally not care as I move up in whatever formation I want to, and if one lands on a rock, I can actually stay there and still take my action. Mm-hmm. And there's a level of unpredictability where I could still take the lane, or I could go cut hard through a rock. So that option isn't there anymore. If I don't want to use grappling struts, it's there if I want to use it on some. But I think we're not going to see this on all Vulture droids in a list in my mind yet. I've yet to see the reasoning why that's necessary.
Right. And do you think this just incentivizes everybody to bring seismics if it does become a problem?
Sure. Yeah. I just don't see it becoming a problem. It multiplies the list count too much if you want to put in grappling struts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ryan. Where to next? What do you think? We've kind of jumped around a little bit. Is there anything we've missed as far as these as far as the new points release goes that we haven't touched on yet? I mean, we've got the 2 factions. We've talked about do you want to stay on this and talk about the Bellabub? Is there anything about that you want to talk about? Grievous's ship? Or do you want to hop back into
I think we can do the Bellabub Lab a little bit, because we touched on the infiltrator, we touched on the drones, general overall. I mean, was there any other discussion overall on maybe, are we only looking at the I-1 drones and 311? Is anyone looking at the other vultures saying, hey, this could be interesting?
The hunters seem like they might be something. I don't remember how much they cost. They're not a huge cost over the I-3s, right?
They're 26, so they're 2 points more than an I-1 with the shell charges. So
look at that! You perform. You know what? I hadn't even looked at this yet. If you perform an attack, if the defender is in your bullseye, you may reroll 1 blank result. That's cool.
Yeah, I think when I talked about Maul in that build with the 311 guy passing calculates, I think because you're not taking Kraken, which I think is the best relay, because you can help your ships basically do old school optics with calculate tokens, holding onto them. Instead of trying to keep those for the shell charges, you take precise hunters with Maul instead, if you're doing the K2B4. Because it helps them stay alive, and if they get the bullseye, they can re-roll on offense.
Yeah, I just hate bullseye and low initiative. It's just so hard to do. Well, I know you clog up the obvious lanes, but
I don't think you ever take 1 hunter. You maybe take 2, but I think if you're going hunter, you take 3, and you're just throwing them out there and letting people. I mean, once you have 3, almost always somebody's getting that trigger, and maybe multiple people getting that trigger, depending on how big a base they're at and how much. What kind of blockers you have. Like with 3, you should be getting that about every turn. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm running droids, I really want to bring that DFS 8081 because the one thing that was very clear that Alex Davies said over and over again, and the play example proved to be true. If you guys had watched the Twitch live stream that FFG did last week with the preview for Wave 3, was these guys love it when they can have their calculates and do their thing. Unfortunately, a lot of times they have to use it to stay alive. And so that's the trick of the list, is like, can you find ways to where they have their calculates for their offense as opposed to having to use it to save themselves on defense? And that ship just helps towards that, right? Or which is the one that passes it off? Is it the DFS 311? That's it.
Yeah, 311 helps pass it.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a necessary include.
Yeah, depending on, like, if you're looking at a swarm, you can either look at him to pass it off from the back line or pass it off from a blocking position. Maybe he's not getting a shot.
Yeah,
I think so. One of the, again, this is going to take play to really get a good sense of. But you could have 3 hunters with the shells and do like 3 of the initiative 1 guys in front of them who are super cheap, and then a like Captain Sear or something like that in with a Kraken or something in the what's it called?
The Belba
Whatever
Lab.
the relay slot on the Belba Lab. And so you have your hunters each have a couple of tokens, and they've got guys running up ahead of them doing blocking and getting range 1 shots, and then potentially anybody who's got the focuses is potentially negating damage or negating evades from Seer, using Seer's ability. So I mean, there's all kinds of things for your opponent to worry about, and it's just kind of like you take whatever advantage you've got. You're not going to get every single thing every single turn, but you're going to get enough different things for your opponent to worry about that you're just going to be triggering these things pretty regularly as it comes up.
Yeah. And Gordon, when you say, you're concerned about low initiative bullseye, if we expect to see a lot of ARC 170s and we already see U-Wings, like those are valuable targets that are larger base.
Also, the Rebel beef as well, right? Maybe it's not as hard.
Yeah. They don't go many different places. It's just that obviously the Jedi Starfighters are hard to catch unless you're Anakin in an article. But yeah.
Fair point. Okay.
To the Belba Lab, were you guys also surprised that Seer was cheaper than the i3 generic? Like that was, he's basically, I give you crack shot.
Yeah.
So that was.
He's I2, which I guess matters, but
I guess not having a talent slot. Does the Ace have a talent slot? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Seems like a good relay. Like he's like the optimal relay thing, though, right? Because he's like the relays you can't really stack on each other, but he's sort of like his own one of those relays, right? Like he has its own ability that they can use calculates on, plus the calculates that they get, plus the ability you get from the relay. So like somewhere in there, something's going to be useful if you just have them in different, in one situation, one's going to be useful, in another situation, another one's going to be useful, and so you just, you use which one is appropriate for the turn and can kind of switch off. And the fact that he's cheapest means you have more points for other stuff.
Yeah, to me the 2 Belba Labs that I prefer to carry TAC relays are Seer and Wat Tambor. Yeah. And that's specifically because, I'm mainly looking at Kraken when I look at a Belba Lab carrying a TAC relay. And Wat Tambor could hit pretty dang hard when he says, I get a reroll for every ship that's calculating at range 1. So if you get same idea, you got that first set of Ultra Droids at range 3 shooting their energy shell charges. Next turn, they zoom in, and Wat Tambor's right behind them, and they're all zoomed in at range 1, and he's got either a 3 or 4 dice, all reroll focus shot coming in.
And at range 1, a lot of things get crack shot, or a lot of things get bullseye. Yeah, once you get in close, bullseye becomes a lot more common than those range 3 shots.
Yep. Yeah, both Seer and Wat are going to be probably the most used. I did build a list earlier today that I thought was interesting that had Wat with Kraken, 2 I1 Vultures with energy shell charges, 2 base I1s just to, bodies and calculates, And then I was able to fit Grievous with the Soulless one title. It's like, either you deal with these 4 vultures and Watt, or you turn on Grievous. Choose.
Grievous hits hard.
Yeah, you don't want to let him flank, but you also don't want to let 4 vultures and Watt do whatever they want either.
Yeah,
right. Because like those 4, you get the cheap guys with energy shell charges. Like once you start shooting them down, like they get a lot less scary. But you got to shoot them down, and so that means you're not pointing at Grievous, who then is just getting lots of free modification on you for flanking you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Ryan. You think we've covered enough of our initial impressions? Is there anything we've missed in this initial Wave 3 points reveal that we have not highlighted yet that's worth talking about?
I think talking about points-wise, I think we got it, unless either you two gentlemen would like to point anything else out. Nope. Okay. So one thing I'd like to do as like a final thing before we go into commercial break is all of us have had a lot of experience, obviously, playing this game. And I wanted to go through, if you're going to tell a new player, or even, some seasoned players, it's been a long, long time since we've had to say, we got to try brand new ships in a brand new faction. What are some of your tips that you give another player that's not used to this situation on how best to start off in brand new ships and brand new factions? And I'll let Michael start.
Well, hang on, Mike.
We're
about to go. Are we doing this now, or are we doing this after when we come back from a commercial?
No, we'll do this now. We'll do this now.
All right. My bad.
My general advice, which is advice that I still take, when you're trying to figure something out, figure out a new ship or a new faction or whatever, is to do a series of solitaire games of whatever squad you're interested in against whatever squad is good. Like take it against 5Ys or UXXYY or something like that, and just run them against each other and figure out like, oh, when a certain situation happens, this is really bad. When a certain situation happens, this is okay. When a certain situation happens, this is good. And you do that a few times, and you really start finding the weaknesses and the strengths of the squad. And it's much quicker than actually playing actual games. And it's a lot less frustrating when like, oh, well, I'm playing this game and my second turn, I obviously did the horrible thing, or my dice were terrible, and the rest of this game isn't really telling me anything, but I'm playing it out to be polite. But, when you're playing it yourself, you're like, oh, well, I learned this in 5 minutes instead of in 45 minutes. Now I'm going to reset and do it again. And Vassal makes that super quick and easy to do too, much faster than tabletop. But like that's what I would do, is these solitaire games against lists are good, and that really kind of puts your squad through a stress test that's pretty useful to have.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and a lot of times people try to do that stuff in their head, and you can't see the interactions or the hidden efficiencies that can come through actually putting the ships on the table. So that I would say that's a good place to start as well. But for me, I always start with the things I find the coolest. Like whenever if there's a new mechanic or like just a character I like from the movies, that's almost always where I start, because that's probably why I play the game in the first place. And that's kind of my stress test, is like, hey, this is this fun thing that if it's terrible, I at least am still enjoying playing that thematic part. And then I can learn it's terrible in a way that's less painful, if that makes any sense. So it's like, okay, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're going to go on the table pretty early just to have that pair with something else, like probably an arc and some whatever torrents I can fit in. We'll see. And once I find out that they're, I have to start rethinking that situation. It comes through, I guess, more educated and informed points of view, as opposed to just trying to figure out by looking at the cards. Because that is, I think, the probably the most frustrating thing is figuring out without those games. So yeah, I would say just have fun with it.
Okay, Gordon.
I'd like to riff off what they both said. So let's take what Mark said, which is thematic. I mean, don't you guys all agree that if those Buds droids can be landed, that they thematically nail the mechanics and what's involved when they stay on there as opposed to what it takes to get them off? I just thought, congratulations, you just took that movie and you recreated that opening scene, and I thought it was amazing. I may hate it in dealing with it as an X-Wing player or not, but I just felt like when going through and understanding mechanics, that was fantastic. So I would say that if you wanted to try to recreate all that, that make certain you get that tested out and discover for yourself, all right, am I able to land those things at range 3, either straight or a bank, and actually achieve that effect and make my opponent have to deal with annoying buzz droids or not? You know, you're going to have to go through that and test it out. But just thematically, I thought it was fantastic. I thought the mechanics were great for that. And basically the response is like, if you're worried about that, better make certain you bring something with the barrel roll, right? Because if you want to shirk those things off of you, that's the way to do it. The other thing is Michael said there is, like, as far as getting some tests in, is yes, Vassal is a good thing if you can get an opponent to do it, assuming you're not the kind of person that wants to put those ships down on the table and just fly it out yourself. I also want to put in a plug for Sandrum's Fly Casual. He keeps updating a version where you can play against the AI. It seems to leverage the Heroes of a Turi Cluster AI approach to enemy ships flying at you, where you don't have to play against another person, you just play against the computer. But it's a great way to quickly build a list, put it on the table, and just figuring out your own opening moves regardless of the level of the opponent. It's simply just going to try to fly at you and throw dice, but at least let you work out your own stuff first so that you're not the architect of your own demise. Obviously, I don't think he has quite all of the stuff in there yet, but you can imagine it's soon going to be updated with this new Wave 3 release.
Cool. My thing's more on a list building side. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't pile on all the upgrades onto these ships. If there's one thing to find out what it can do without anything. How far can you push that ship? How well can you figure it out with the least amount of upgrades and complexity that you in your mind think is great to put together this, what they call Rube Goldberg machine or something that creates this awesome interaction. If you forget half of it, it's not going to matter. But I think it's definitely worthwhile when you look at a ship or two and putting a list together, take the simple interactions, take an upgrade card or two, put it on the board, and see what the base chassis and the pilot abilities of the named ships that you're doing can do, and fill in what you think are the gaps. What hurts, right? If you can't get the damage output from just base Vulture droids, well, that's where you slot in those energy shell charges. I mean, I think starting with energy shell charges is fine. You don't really have to not put those in. But, you know, just because an ARC 170 can take a talent and a crew and a gunner and a mod and a droid doesn't mean you really need to take all that. You know, you can do a little bit at a time and really figure out what's really needed in this ship, and do I need to fill out its weaknesses within itself, or can I do that in a list composition?
I could not agree with Ryan more, and I think he has basically stated the essence of what is, to me, X-Wing 2nd Edition, which is to riff off of the phrase, less is more, less becomes more. If you don't pile on the upgrades, it allows you more ships, and we've seen success with just a lot of ships as the key to success in X-Wing. If you like, for example, look at Kalen Wong's Toronto win, right? Just the idea was to spam as many ships in there as possible with as few upgrades as possible. Sure, it's key to have Leia in there, but that's because they made it 2 points. Do the same thing with this new stuff. Find a way. Like, I love the fact that we can put Maul on the table, and I'm looking to put as few upgrades on that ship as possible so that I can squeeze in more stuff.
Yep. So I think then that concludes that part, and we can put it on a commercial break. Gordon, do you have a requested commercial, or do you gentlemen, I'm not even sure if I asked this, do you guys listen to OCX? Do you have a commercial that you prefer?
I just want to vote to quit using that stupid one that burns Kentucky, even though I'm not from here and I'm from California. Just knock it off. I know you came up with that one because I'm in Kentucky, so stop already.
No preference.
Yeah, me either. I haven't listened to enough to know the commercials well.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think I probably watch the YouTube more where you don't even see the commercials. So
Sure.
yeah.
Montana, producer's choice. Have fun. So, okay. Timestamp. Feel free to get more beer, go to the bathroom, whatever you wish to do.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I speak to him all the time in the forums. Michael, Genithouse. Which one is that? Which one is that? One of your locals there in?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Mark Myers.
Mark
Yeah.
Myers. Okay. He wasn't.
Mayers.
Right.
Maybe.
Obviously, you haven't listened to other podcasts, sir. It's gotten to the point where I find a way to short of the crates to where I'm on the podcast and we're talking about me instead. So do not be surprised that I'm somewhere else. Be surprised if I'm not there at this point.
Yeah, you had to get in the last word in that last Gold Squadron cast when they were going
okay, I swear to God, I did not mean to do that. I simply said the comment for Andre. I was simply pointing out he didn't have his dreads. It's not my fault then as the last word, he brings me up. I know it's gotten out of hand and people are sick of me. I apologize. And most of the time I try to do that, right? I do try to find a way to weasel my way onto a show. And it's all about my ego and all about me. Guilty. But I just want it noted for the record, I didn't try to do that this one time. And two, you asked me on tonight. I wasn't looking to be on.
I know. I was about to say I asked you on.
All right.
One of our other guests that I was going to have couldn't make it, so I was like, "Well, let's."
I know you were desperate. I get it.
So, we do. Yeah, I'm seeing some more people in this chat that I know who they are, but they don't show up very often.
That's because I'm here.
You're here. His local buddies are here.
Coincidence.
Hugs. Yeah, Genitals. Hugs for Gordon.
Yeah, I swear to God, as soon as Andre said that last night, I went, "Oh Jesus Christ, Dion's going to be pissed. He can't get away from me."
Yep. Oh man. Yeah, this separatist wise, there's nothing where I'm like, there's nothing that I think is wrong. It's all okay, and we'll figure it out, I guess. That's about it.
Mark, did you get a refill?
I did.
Good man.
I got my dog for a minute.
Doggy.
Ringo.
Would the pooch let you pick him up?
What? Yeah.
So,
who's a good baby?
here we'll present Mark so that everyone can see the dog.
Yeah.
Present to everybody.
Is he a good boy?
He's a very good boy.
Okay.
How old?
He is 8. He just turned 8. Yeah.
Is he a mutt?
He is. Yeah. Cocker Spaniel, Dalmatian, Shih Tzu, I think. Yeah.
Haven't heard of that combo before.
Yeah, he's one of a kind.
Is he like fashionably grown his hair more on one side of his head than the other? Is that like an elongated ear? What's going on with that?
That's just natural. We used to cut it to keep it even.
And you gave up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, chat, I would like you to type in your winner and loser of the points adjustment or the points given for the Separatists and Republic. You don't have to do one for each faction.
The first thing we do is we look for what's broken, right? Like, oh, dear God, they undercosted this or something. Did anything stand out in that regard for you?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see the Scimitar under 5 points. The Scimitar, I was expecting to be around 8 and above.
Am I wrong? It's going to be a bitch to line up that arc. It's just not a hypermobile ship. It's a big base.
I think that Bullseye is just a bonus.
Yeah, a bonus jam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So for 4 points, fine. But you may go an entire tournament without having leveraged that once.
But you use cloak every single game.
Yeah, you will.
It's for the cloak, Gordon.
So I all I saw was the Bullseye and I didn't care.
So have you flown strikers much, Gordon?
Onto rocks? Yes.
Okay, that's probably why. So, I mean, the amount of distance you can cover or change because you're a big base by doing a decloak forward, that's a boost on a big base, and then doing your I think it has 3 turn is white too. That's so much.
I swear to God, you know what? I'm looking at this setup. It says after the place forces step, you may cloak. Yep, I missed that entirely.
It gets
all I saw was the after that. Yeah.
It gets a free cloak at the beginning because it's normally a stressful cloak.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. Yeah. So you think it's worth 4 points? Okay, so let's just forget the other stuff. You think it's worth it for those 4 points on the setup? Why is that a big deal? Just it's that gets you that much out of the gate that much faster?
Let me ask you, is it easier to know where a big ship is going just by its dial, or by its dial plus a barrel roll either direction or a boost? Like
I mean, how squirrely can it be? It's a freaking big base.
I don't think the point is meant to be squirrely. It's a ship that gets the jump on you when it wants to. Or if you think they're going to try and jump on you, you have a barrel roll back off and still turn in.
I don't see it getting a jump on you, because if you're worried about that, you just bunch all your stuff together and it's like, fine, come at me. I know you're 10 health, but you're 1 evade die, and I'm going to light you up. I don't know how eager you are. It's like, if you don't flank with it, then don't bother at all. I don't.
Maul likes fighting lots of things. He'll shoot them all.
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to give up a 30-year list just so you can double tap once and then get burned down? I don't know. I want to be squirrely with it. I want to be playing around with that ship towards the end, not towards the beginning.
If you want to be squirrely, you may want to look at Dooku Pilot. Mm-hmm. That's the one where you're basically, and I have yet to look at any type of build with him, but he's got that, I can stay cloaked. And then after you defend, if the attacker's in your firing arc, you can spend a force to remove a blue or red token.
What's this one of your blue or red tokens? What exactly. Is it you're worried about being on
your blue cloaks. You can stay cloaked, get the defensive advantage of cloak. If they're in your arc when they shoot you, you get to decloak essentially by spending a force, attack them at your initiative, which is 3, which is dead in the middle. And then if you want to, after you perform an attack that hits, you may spend a force to perform an action. You could recloak, or you could just take a target lock and then K turn next turn or something like that.
Oh, I like that. That makes sense. That's cool. So you're 3 evade dice, and then surprise, I'm attacking, and then,
and then you can recloak it. Yeah. I'm not as high as on the recloak as I am taking a lock and then K turning next turn and being behind them, because they have a 5K big base.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it'll be situational, but there's gonna be times where it's pretty nasty.
Oh, look at all this amazing content that's being wasted during the commercial break. Knock it off.
It's okay. We're just re-elaborating further.
All right, I want you to repeat everything you just said.
Play Count Dooku Pilot, because apparently you don't know how to play Maul Pilot
while we are not in commercial break.
I paraphrased.
Jesus, not even my podcast, and I'm triggered. All right.
Hey, you know what? They can take torpedoes, proton torpedoes.
Which game? The Infiltrators?
Yeah, they can take cannons and torpedoes. So I don't know. Let's just, if you want to be really crazy, let's just do a surprise Dooku torpedo. Ah!
I mean, Maul decloaking to get a lock and torpedoing something feels real good.
And that's the other part of decloaking, Gordon, you also have to consider, which is why I have moderate issues dealing, like, in my mind, when you think about, when I face quad phantoms, I could block them. Well, they can actually block you before you go to block them, because their decloak could be in a blocking position. Yeah. You can use that big base for a blocking advantage as well.
Well, but it's initiative 3, though, right? So now we're talking about bid issues.
Well, that's a system phase decloak. So it depends on if there's other system phase things your opponent has.
Right. I mean, if you're worried about, specifically if you're worried about the Imperial Phantoms.
Oh, well, I'm playing hyperspace.
Oh, okay. All right.
Predominantly hyperspace.
Okay.
unless it's a system open.
All right. So, all right, why don't we come out of the break, and do we want to cover this exact same topic again, or do we just want to just say, hey, this is what you get for listening on live.
Oh yeah,
and you
no,
can
this
go
is what
listen
you
on
get
YouTube.
we have to promote the live. This is what you get.
All right, the bonus content you missed. All right, so where do you want to go when we come out of this crap?
Hyperspace legal stuff. And
okay, we're moving into hyperspace. All right.
Yep. And then
why don't you take us out of the break and lead us into that?
And welcome back from that fabulous commercial break. Thank you, Montana, for your commercial of choice.
We all voted via the democratic process that it was Montana's choice.
Yep.
And I swear to God, if he picked the Kentucky commercial, I'm killing him.
I think that's a good reverse psychology there, Gordon.
Obviously, he picked it.
Probably. So, what the other thing that was crazy that happened today that I don't think anyone saw coming was more ships got hyperspace legal for
kind of ahead of schedule, right? Isn't the theory that it's supposed to be product on the shelf and available?
I mean, that's the theory. They have broken that before because the Striker became hyperspace legal.
A little bit. You thought they did this in the name of balance, right? Every faction needs 4 ships. Fine, we'll make it this. And we're sorry if you're new to the game and can't get a hold of it. But now they flat out say, nope, it's legal. And if you can't find a B-Wing from first edition on the secondary market, too bad, sucker. You're going to have to wait till June. Right?
Yep. Or or an A-Wing for Rebel, or a TIE Bomber, or a TIE Interceptor, or a Star Viper.
All right. So if you covered them all, take us through the factions. What's new?
So I'm actually going to go to the article that they released, which a lot of people, besides the article yesterday from the Aether Sprite, or was that today? Is it today?
Aether Sprite was today.
Aether Sprite was today. And then they also came out with an article after the app was updated. That was the Battle of Eindhoven. I think that's how you say it. I missed
that entirely. So when you say a lot of people, you are correct. Where is this? What are we talking about?
It basically went over a system open that occurred in Eindhoven, Netherlands. And towards the bottom, there's a area called Expanding the Field. And saying the next system open series takes place at Adepticon. We're excited to see what ships, blah, 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 blah. And then a big thing for people going to Adepticon, because the official release date for the 3rd wave of expansions is tomorrow, March 21st, the Galactic Republic and Separatist Alliance won't be legal for the main event, but we expect to see a good number of droids and Jedi flying to battle in the hyperspace qualifier and other side events.
They are correct.
Wave 3 and presumably all these hyperspace legal things that got added are able to be played in the hyperspace qualifier if you don't make the top 8. What, you may ask, has been added? Well, barrage rockets, jamming beam, tractor beam, the B-Wing, the A-Wing, all U-Wing pilots, so not just the partisans, Baze Malbus crew, Cassian Andor crew, TIE Interceptor, TIE Bomber, Vader crew, say hello to Vermeil, Sienna Ree, which hasn't been played much, and I think there's something there. Z95 Headhunters, which are coming in Wave 3 for the Scum anyway. The Star Viper, the Virago title, Dengar Gunner, and the Bio Cheat Codes or Bio Hexacrypt codes for First Order.
Now, before you go on, I want to back up a little bit, because even though my brain is alcohol-addled, I know I had made an assumption, and so maybe it's got to do with the fact that it's called a qualifier versus a trial or something to that effect. But they're talking about the Adepticon Hyperspace Qualifier, which is going to be on day 2, right? If you make day 2 and then you drop, you get to jump in, and if you didn't get what happened? How do you get bounced out of the system open? Second loss, you're done.
So yeah, you have to be 1 in X or X and 1 to make the day 2 of the main event.
Okay, so here we are.
If you don't make the top 8, which gives Worlds invites, you drop down into Hyperspace Qualifier. For anyone who didn't make the top cut at all in the main event, can go into the Hyperspace Qualifier. The people who get knocked out from the cut get a game or 2 advantage based upon how big the cut was.
Fair enough. Now, I can't be the only one who'd assumed that the hyperspace definitions, limitations, whatever was eligible, was still going to be under that 11-day window. Is it because of the language used here that is not the case? Because whatever they say in the tournament. I don't even know what the name of the document is where it defines that 11-day window as to what's legal, what's not, based on when new product comes out. Why is this hyperspace allowed to allow this brand new stuff right out of the gate?
To be honest, I don't know. Most people expected the hyperspace qualifier was considered a same level event and would not allow that. But I think FFG chose the side of fun. That's it. I mean, I have yet to see something that says hyperspace qualifiers, trials, either one of the two, are not considered something that abides by the 11-day. I think trials are technically formal, and then the system open is premier, but I don't think it was ever clarified if the qualifier was formal or premier. And premier is the one that follows the 11-day rule. Formal is regional level, generally, that says as soon as something's out, like, use it.
Okay, so then let's use Adepticon as the launch pad for what is going to help us define as the new hyperspace meta. Let's all pretend we're me, and I'm the horrible scrub that I am, and I've bounced out, and I am now on to the hyperspace qualifier. Here is the burning question for both Ryan and myself. And Moriarty. No, sorry, you're Moriarty. Can we fly our 5A wings?
I don't see why not.
Well, there's new stuff. What am I worried about?
Sorry, what?
There's new stuff now. What am I worried about? I felt like it was okay because to some extent the hyperspace meta was a little bit limited because it was a limited availability. They've now expanded the ship pool. Should I be concerned?
Got nothing, Moriarty?
I don't know.
Well, let's go through what's eligible again, right? B-Wings, do it.
Is that it relies on being pretty efficient ships that can be where they need to be and shoot as much as they can and are hard to kill. So that's going to be good almost all the time. When it becomes bad is when 2 dice are no longer viable, and when the offensive punch becomes so large that they can just start popping the way that they would have in 1.0. So I don't know if anything does that off the bat. I think anything that's come out you can beat with 5A wings. Not that it's a plus matchup for everything, but I think it's definitely going to be viable. So, yeah.
Coming from also playing 5As, the few things that stand out that potentially give you a tougher game are the fact that Vader Crew exists, and I've always mentioned that A-Wings really like to keep their focus token, and the reason why I was concerned about them playing them in extended was because things like Juke Phantoms existed, Paylob existed. There were things that helped strip away those tokens more when Advanced Optics is such a multiplier of damage throughout the game that Vader Crew, which I assume most Imperial players will put on Major Vermeil because it's a natural synergy. You just got to treat Vermeil's front arc at range 1 to 2 as a no-go zone. If you thought Death Troopers was a no-go zone, this is even more of a no-go zone. You only have 4 health to deal with. And then the Arc 170s with that 7th Fleet Gunner, that front arc could shoot 4. That rear arc could shoot 3, and that's not including range bonuses. So, I mean, their time on target is decently strong, but they're also medium base. They can't boost. Their barrel roll is red. It's going to be, if people are willing to run these new factions that early, we see Arc 170s are strong. Can the A-Wings punch through damage over time to get the arcs off the board?
Okay, so the chat doesn't think so. Mark, because he hasn't paid enough attention, doesn't know enough to give us a qualified answer. I'm kidding, Mark, only a little bit. But Ryan, are you going to bring the 5A wings for the hyperspace qualifier?
I'm probably going to bring them. I'm still not sure if I'm going to run them.
Geez, run for office and be a politician. That was not an answer.
I've put in enough games to where I think I'm more likely to run them, but I will say I wish I had time to put in games with it, but I would sure like to fly Mikhail's list a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. I think I tried it in some manner, and I just didn't get the handle of it right. I don't know if it was just a couple fluky games or I was just playing bad, but I think that list might have more tools against the field, but I think both that and the 5 ace have similar odds of winning their matchups. Like it's never a full win, it's a push, but it's moderately in your advantage because you have certain things to deal with situations. So
Mark Myers is screaming in the chat right now, shut up, because he's another huge 5-wing advocate. He's been on the battle reports leading the charge for a while about the 5A wings, and you're not doing us any favors if we're bringing this to Adepticon.
I mean, he's a fan of it, but he's actually been playing more of Mikhail's list for longer.
So he's a traitor. Good to know.
Poe, Bastion, Lulo, Tally. Fly that, everybody. It's a good resistance list. Deal with it, Mark. People will know. Mark Mayers, not Mark Moriarty, because he's trying to tell me to shut up, and I'm trying to tell him, you know what, deal with it. You'll have to play the mirror match at some point.
Michael, you're going to be at Adepticon, yes?
Yes.
Your thoughts on the hyperspace aspect of this? What are you bringing, or what about A-Wings? What about this new stuff? Chime in.
So my extended list that I've been running for a few months now is 4 Saber Squadron Interceptors and something else in that 5th ship spot. And I was trying to figure out a good hyperspace list that I liked, but now that Interceptor is going to be hyperspace legal, I'm just going to do that because it's pretty awesome.
Were you shocked by that? Like, I couldn't believe what I saw. I go, wait, what? Interceptors?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they're good when you get enough of them, you know? Like, you have 1 or 2, and they just kind of, if it's not Soontir, it just kind of dies, right? Because alone, it doesn't do a whole lot. But when you have a bunch of them, like, all of a sudden, that's like a lot of 3 dice shots coming your way. And they all have crack shot, so if you happen to be in arc with some of those, it's even worse. That tends to push people to do away, right? They can't just, they kind of AC squads can't just go up against that and be happy trading shots with it. And if you're end up flying against like Beef List or something like that, you end up having 4 or 5 aces against their Beef List and can initiative kill a couple things also. So feels like a pretty strong list right now.
Now, if I recall correctly, you have mainly had Gideon with Crackshot as your final ship.
Yeah, that's what I've done most. I'm kind of looking at other possibilities too. Gideon's nice because he's initiative 4 also, and by the time those other 4 ships are done firing, somebody's almost always damaged, and so Gideon then just gets another initiative, 3 dice shots. So it's like 5 3 dice shots, all with Crackshot. That's pretty good, And they're fast, so you can get them places.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a list not everyone can pick up, and I think with the amount of time and experience that we've seen you put into lists before, with lists such as at the end of 1.0, the quick draw 2 silencers, and that having access to double reposition and the certain middle ground initiative says in this meta, I'm either too much firepower to straight up joust with high aces, and I'm too squirrely and just high enough initiative to deal with the beef low initiative.
Yeah, and that maneuverability and speed still comes up a lot against the aces too, because you can block extremely well. You can move to places that they're not really prepared for you to be at. And so, I mean, that maneuverability is not just useful against the low initiative, it's also pretty useful against high initiative.
Yep. Gordon, what are you thinking about doing for Adepticon then?
Well, my assumption had been, well, I've got the hyperspace portion of this solved, and I'll be joining that tournament sooner rather than later, because I don't think of myself as a capable extended pilot. And then when I saw all of this stuff was legal, I immediately panicked. And now I'm wondering, well, what do I bring? But it's a little too late in the game. I don't think I can change it up. I think I just have to bring the 5As and hope to God I only have what is it? Is it only the 6-0s matter? Is there value in only having one loss, or I've already forget?
For hyperspace qualifier, at least it only matters 6-0 if you want to get the world's invite. Beyond that, if you have already lost at some point, you can leave, or you can get more games in for fun.
Well, isn't there a prize wall as well? Aren't you getting tickets?
That's right. Yep, the prize wall.
So I'm in it for all 6 no matter what, because I want to get tickets for stuff, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, all right, so let's transition then into extended. I have no freaking clue, and we're only a week out as to what I'm going to bring for extended. I've just been such a hyperspace headspace that I haven't given any thought. Now, my friend had brought up a good point. We only kind of have, from a meta perspective, one data point. That's Toronto, which tells us Rebel as far as the eye can see, and tons of it. What are our thoughts going into the system open for Adepticon, meta predictions, or flat out, if you're willing to say what you're going to fly and why? Mark, you going to be flying in that, or are you too busy doing Guild Ball?
No, that's the one I am doing. I probably won't do the hyperspace one because of Guild Ball. But I think because of that one data point, it's going to skew Adepticon pretty heavily based on what we see. I'm expecting a ton of Rebels because of that, and I think a lot of I won't say what people from India are taking, but I think it's pretty. I don't know. You can kind of see that trend continuing at least in our meta here. Because that's really the only thing to go off of. I have no idea what I'm taking. The back pocket list is the 5As, but Ryan mentioned it. Like there's a lot of problems in extended that A's run into, and so I don't know. I definitely don't feel as confident with that in extended as I do in hyperspace. So I don't know. I'm trying a lot of Vader plus as many things that I can fit, like whether it's 3 barrage rocket bombers or like basically variations on the Vader 3 MDAR list that we saw do well at Toronto.
And that's what I've been flying. I've been flying instead of FCS hate. I've been flying Vader afterburners into 3 MDARs.
Okay, sure, yeah. Do you like?
I don't know if I can bring it. I'm too scared to. I don't have any confidence in it.
But what are you worried about facing?
I'm not worried about what I'm facing. I'm worried about just I suck.
Oh, okay.
I'm always looking for a list that will help me with how bad of a player I am. And I know that's kind of a generic statement, but I'm always looking for, is there a list that I resonate with so that I feel like I'm not fighting against myself the entire match? Mm-hmm. And even though I know maybe there's some skill to flying the 5A wings, and you think to yourself, how hard can it be? Just fly where they're not at and point the rear arc or something like that. I mean, all lists require to some extent some skill, but just initially on that list just really resonated. And I felt like I had time in my brain to explore how to fly the list because I wasn't too, how to maximize it because I wasn't too busy fighting myself, figuring it out. Most lists, when I look at it, I get scared and I go, how do I not have to put in 50 matches with this stupid thing before I finally have the light bulb go off and then I can get on to the next level, which is where you need to be with most lists. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always get stuck in just not even getting off the ground floor with a list because I always worry about, well, how do I maximize it so I'm not the problem in and of itself? Where are you at, Michael? I know you're Imperial.
I mean, I already told you that I extended list is the Sabers, but I think any faction can do a similar kind of thing to a degree. Like Rebels can do either Initiative 3 generics or Initiative 4 name guys. For those, Resistance can do 4 Initiative 4 and 5 guys. First Order has a little bit harder. But anyway, anyone that can bring 4 or 5, 4 beefy or 5 not as beefy, Initiative 3 or 4 ships can probably do a little bit. Has a pretty decent matchup against those 5 Initiative 2 ship kinds of lists. because you can, probably initiative kill one, and you can maneuver around them a little bit better. And I think, people making that initiative bid to get above the initiative 2 max efficiency types of lists. I think that's gonna happen. Because you still keep a lot of that strength of the efficiency against, ace type lists, but then you're, above, the total efficiency lists. And so it's a pretty nice spot right now, I think.
All right, Ontopski, your turn. What are you thinking in terms of extended?
Well, initially, a month or so back when I was looking at Adepticon, I was like, well, I'm preferring more ships on the board, 4+, whether it's 4, 5, or 6. I started off trying to find something with Drea, see what I could build there. I tested out some Drea dorsal, 2 Goons dorsal, Seavor, and put the party bus back on the board with Forlom and Zuckuss. Because they both went down in points back when they adjusted it. And I mean, all in my mind, I was like, I just got to find a way to strip tokens off those Phantoms and just kill them. My difficulty was there's a just below 50-50 chance that 4 Phantoms just outright kill one of my Y-Wings. So I, thought, well, let's find another option. And then I was like, all right, let's throw some Rebel beef together, see what happens. What can carry Leia? How many X-Wings or B-Wings? What can I throw together? I'd started with like a U-Wing with Leia and 3 B-Wings and Blount. 5 3-dice shots beef. And then Toronto happened, and I saw the 2 Bs, 2X, Zeb, and Leia, and I saw Kaylin's list, and I liked both of those. I did a couple games with Kaylin's list. It was all right. Weren't highly competitive, but seemed cool. 6 ships on the board. My mindset was like, I'm playing Separatists very soon in the future. Why not just play something that's going to be close to it? If I make it in the system open, cool. If not, whatever.
So in other words, you don't know.
I know I'm flying 5 or 6 ships.
And that's where I'm at too. My comfort level is where I feel like I need to find a way to get to 5 or 6 ships. And Kaylin's list really stands out to me. Yeah. It's just so criminally cheap. And look at all his
explanation of usage of the tractor beam was actually very good when he was on Scum and Villainy, I think is when he talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. I always like it because I've been running the 5 A-Wings. I've loved when I can have a 5+ ship list where 1 or 2 of those ships is a fast flanker. Lulo and Tally I've always used as the run up the board, work your way in. Tally might cut in soon. Lulo's still working his way to the outside to where if they turn on Lulo, my entire list is now looking at the back of theirs. So if I can find something similar that, the X-Wing isn't as fast, but if you look in Kaylin's list, you have the Zs and the Bs controlling the middle of the board with their multiple arcs with the U-Wing in tow behind, providing additional actions and additional firepower. And that X is just sitting out there ready to cut in on their flank on the inside. And that's what I don't think you get with the 2B, 2X. I mean, you can send one of those X-Wings for a flank, but I think that you carrying Leia is much more durable, obviously, than just the Zeb Sheathapede shuttle. Well, and you have a little more control with that tractor beam.
Then this is my question for you and Mark. Do we risk bringing our 5As anyway, despite the Rebel beef? We have to be aggressive. We've got to get in more turns. We've got to have more opportunity to paper cut. But given the reps we have with the list, do we take the chance? Because I know in Extended, you see all of the problematic lists that would give that A hard time. Is that what's going to be there? Is that what we're going to run into? Even if it's just one match, should we be so concerned about those problems or stick with the list and the strengths that it has?
I mean,
even in an extended meta.
We saw Toronto. Most of their lists were hyperspace legal. I don't know. We could see predominantly hyperspace legal squadrons.
Resistance is nuts. I said this on my podcast. I'm super addicted to heroic, and I don't know if I can let it go. And I have a super hard time when I don't have it available now. I've got a problem. Hi, my name is Gordon, and I'm a heroaholic. It's just, I'm worried.
I mean, it's a good safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout, I as much as people say bids are better than heroic, I'm okay without a bid. It's not a big deal. Mark Moriarty showed you can definitely kick someone else's ass playing first instead of second. I'm the victim of that. So
it's because he got his actions and he knew where you're going to go and he blocked you. I love going first in that list.
He had multiple ways of going and I picked the wrong one and I overcommitted. So besides that, maybe the 5As are still fine. We've had successful games overall. I've only lost 3 games with them out of 20-some.
God, I want to be you. Jesus.
So it's been successful. I guess I don't know why I don't take it. I'm overly concerned about Quad Phantom and Paylop, but we didn't see much Paylop. We see Quad Phantom, but I mean, I went to Worlds and didn't face a Ghost Fend once. So
I know if there is one lesson to be learned about tournament success is the day. It's kind of like the analogy is like, well, my car is having this problem. I take it to the mechanic. And then of course you bring it onto the lot or to the mechanic in the garage and it doesn't do that. And the second you drive it off the thing, the problem comes back. Same thing with a tournament. The day you plan for a certain list is the day you see none of that. I don't know if that's a valid strategy. I know it's nice, but it can't be the thing you rely upon.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys think? I love hearing myself talk, but chime in, guys. Any thoughts?
Michael, do you have any overall concerns about what have you found your list having difficulties with?
I'd say probably the hardest thing is a very high initiative, high offense list. Mm-hmm. So back when it was legal squad of legends, I mean, basically, I had to hope the person was not nearly as good as me to win that matchup. The modern version of Squad of Legend is not quite so hard. But, anything that can throw out a bunch of damage from long range at high initiative can be hard to deal with.
Especially ones that don't give you that additional bonus dice.
So are you worried about these proton carriers like in the Rebel faction, like say with the X-Wings?
Yeah, like Marcel's list.
X-Wings concern me a bit less because they aren't quite as maneuverable, and so I can kind of I feel like I can use obstacles to avoid the worst of the Alpha Strike a little bit better. But it's the things that kind of have more maneuverability to them. I can predict a little bit less. That's a harder matchup.
I mean, would you say I think either Gordon or Mark mentioned Marcel's list where his proton torpedo carriers were Wedge and Corn. Corn Horns got a much more potentially open dial. He's got long range scanners. He'll get that target lock early.
Yeah, that is potentially problematic. I haven't done enough. I haven't done any kind of like simulated games against that kind of list. I've done a little bit of head sim, but it's really, it could be an issue because they could take a ship off the board, very easily. 2 fully mounted proton torpedoes, 1 with Wedge. Losing a ship in the initial engagement is okay. Losing 2 ships is not, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And that list could take 2 ships off. It wouldn't take too much bad luck for that list to take 2 ships off. And so it comes down a lot to dice probably there. If I don't lose 2 ships, then the surviving ships can probably paste wedge, with their 4 3x attacks. For those 2 ships, the remaining guys probably don't kill wedge, and that starts to snowball pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mark, you bringing the 5 A-wings?
Yeah, I would imagine that's what it ends up happening, just with the amount of practice time I've left. But I think just thinking through that matchup, Michael, I'm curious what I didn't see a lot of Marcel's games. I don't even know if they were streamed, but I'm curious to see how he deals with that target lock from Corrin, like how much he telegraphs what he's going after, and whether you can use that to your advantage or not. I'm just with how fast those interceptors are and how they're able to be wherever they need to be in that opening engagement. Because I wonder how much that is the key. Like if you can just make it so they can't fire on the same ship,
right?
Yeah. It could also be, granted, the U-wing is, I don't remember what pilot it was or what initiative it could have been. I think
it's Cassian, right?
At 3. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not beating where the interceptor is going to be. So I was thinking if Cassian's far enough back, he could still coordinate a lock for Corrin, and he could still kind of choose.
Mm-hmm.
But because it seems all your ships are moving at 4, that's obviously less of an option for him.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, this is one person flying a list that's probably one of the more efficient alphas the Rebels have in extended. Like beyond that, it's maybe Poe, Proton Torpedo, T-70, Proton Torpedo, and Lulo. I think that's like one of the only other ones, unless you do. I think what actually placed high in Toronto, I think was top in Swiss, was the Luke, Dutch, Wedge, all 3 with Proton Torpedo.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Gordon, have you finally decided? I mean, I'm almost convinced to just stick with the 5As.
You know what? As I'm talking, as I talk through this, right, trying to play quote unquote the host, I'm like, Jesus, I'm talking myself into freaking 5 A-wings, simply because I don't have faith in my ability to head sim and get enough practice time. Something else beforehand. I like Vader and the Phantoms. I was so happy to see that do well. But how much of this is me just leveraging confirmation bias where I'm looking for any excuse to play Vader because I love that ship more than anything? Mark, we commissioned you to do artwork on that ship for a reason. Mm-hmm. I love that ship. I just love Vader, but I don't know if I have the skill set to be able to pull it off.
Mm-hmm. Well, a thing I tried, and this might be up your alley. We've talked about it before, but along those same lines, instead of the 3 MDARs, you can fit 3 Gamma bombers with barrage rockets, the PS3 ones, and that gives you room for FCS on Vader and to still have like a 7-point bid. If you wanted to, you could go to Jonas for one of them. And that does it. Like if you go to Jonas, then I think you're actually 201 with, I think you have to drop FCS and then it's only a 1-point bid. I think it's something like that. But that might be easier to leverage than those 3 MDARs. They have about the same survivability if you have to spend that, or if you're not spending that evade. And if you are spending the evade, then they're pretty much sitting ducks anyway. So I think you're basically just trading pieces with those bombers, but you line up and throw some barrage rockets and then have Vader to close it out. It's very
right. Then you're really going all in on the, here's my jousting portion of it, deal with it, and you absolutely know where it's going to be, and all it takes is just one crit to ruin one of the ship's days where it can't do what it needs to do. Whereas at least there's some difficulty in the Phantoms in that because of the decloak, it may not conveniently be where you want it to be, depending on what you're facing.
No, for sure. I guess I was just speaking to your, the thing you're worried about, the not executing it properly. So it's a little easier to pull off.
Right. You know what? Honestly, I think I speak more to keeping Vader alive than anything else.
Sure.
I mean, Phantoms at this point, it's kind of like it's obvious what it's got to do.
Sure.
You're either presenting it as the jousting portion and it's getting in their grill because it's just got to take stuff with it so Vader can have its end game, or you're doing what a 4 Phantom player would do, right? Which is like, I'm effectively castling. I'm not leaving this portion of the map. You're coming to me. I'm making you fly, and I will then decloak and pounce on you when it seems optimal, and still set up Vader as the flank. I just suck as a pilot. That's all.
I mean, there was a little bit of talk and discussion on the forums. I think Travis had brought this up a few, but all these Rebel Beef squads, depending on the amount that you can take, most people tend to correct or incorrectly fly them close together. That's where bombs can take a huge advantage. And I thought about pulling back Crimson Specialist or Finch Dallow Bob out again. It's a lot of area denial. Granted, the Rebels have a lot of health, but if I can trade that ship for X amount of health and Poe or Lulo can help finish off the game, maybe. But
or just bombs on Y-Wings.
Yeah, that's the other part. Like, Nora's just taking a bomb, not dying easy, really cheap.
That is the one thing I've been really tinkering with, if that's something I want to bring. I really feel like I need to bring some kind of bomb list. And not a trajectory simulator one, but this coincides with what I'm worried about, because this is what I experienced at Murray. Have you guys come across a really well-flown BB-8 Poe yet?
Yeah. Not directly.
Oh, Jesus. Good Lord. It's brutal. And I know Kevin Lines is bringing BB-8 Poe. I know he is, right?
Thought he said he couldn't make Adepticon.
I think he's just said on his latest thing he is going to Adepticon.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And you can't build a list based on just one opponent, because the hubris of that, right? You know, that's insane. But in general, like, if I don't know how you guys are, because it's irrational, but it's like the one list you're worried about. But do you actually commit to building a list against it? But for me, those super squarely aces, or whether, you know, Phildo, I know he's going there and he's coming down with Kylo, right? And that keep me awake at night. Freaking supernatural Kylo. So to my answer is, like, I can't outfly that. And so unless I bring just a ton of ships and just fan out in a bunch of arcs and hope I can get damage on them, I think I can't help but think that maybe bombs can be helpful in that regard. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I think all of us could probably, and I want to hear what you guys think, because obviously Mark's flown the 5As and Michael's flown his interceptors in mass. If I'm flying against a Kylo, Supernatural especially, or a BB-8 Poe, or something with pre-positioning that can just decide where it wants to go after he's seen what I do, I personally go to kill the rest of their list as quickly as possible, so it makes it more difficult for that ship to endgame me and have to deal with more arcs. Do you guys have the same mindset, or do you have a different way to attack it?
Yeah, that's my mindset. I mean, like, I usually try to keep some arcs in the place that he would be if he was going to attack me, you know, just to try to keep him honest, you know, depending on lots of factors, right? But I think you got to go after the support, because if you can't chase Kylo and then let his support just chew on you for the rest of the game. That's no way to win. So you take out the support, and then it's whatever you've got left versus Kylo, and that starts getting a lot more manageable, because he can't just, I mean, he can go wherever he wants, but only a few of those places will actually let him put guns on you. That matters.
Yeah. Now, say you're in a situation where they do go offensively, and they go where you have some arcs, maybe more than 3 pointing at him. Do you still take the shots at his support to get them down quicker, or do you go for the half points?
It depends on the quality of shots, really. I mean, there are certainly times that I would be willing to, but it's going to depend a lot on the situation.
Okay. Mark, do you generally have the same
method? And I think this happened to me against a BB-8 Poe in Ohio, where it was like, man, I could kill, or I could at least do a lot of damage to, I don't know, a Bastion or a Lulo, but Poe is sitting here, and if I kill him or half points him, that creates a winning condition that wasn't an option before that turn. And so, yeah, if it is a good enough situation, then sometimes you just have to jump on it, because if it works out, it make your life that much easier. Because then they have to keep running scared, and I think that's the key is one, either having enough ships in the end game to deal with all of that repositioning, or keep as Michael said, keeping them honest to the point where they can't use that gun until the end game, and it lets you get that advantage position easier. So yeah, I think it's a game, an in-game situation, like a call you have to make in the moment. But yeah, I think
speaking to that, exactly, that's the scenario I faced. When I was going into my fourth round match, 3-0 versus 3-0 at Murray, and I was up against Jordan Struckensnyder, the guy who ended up in second, losing to Matt Carey there, Michael. What you will find with the Poe and the Kylo players, while they have shields, they tend to be a little more bold. Makes sense, right? That's what the shields are for. And I knew he was going to be aggressive with Kylo, and that was my thinking, was like, I'm going to get half points on that Kylo or that Poe while I can, and then go after his support. And sure enough, I did that, and I just really put the hurt on Poe. And he maintained his aggressiveness with Poe, because at that point he then leveraged a BB-8, say, Black 1 move. And he just crawled back into it through his own offense, and then he ended up slaughtering me. And that was the only damage I did in the whole game, was that initiating hurt I put on Poe. So I agree with that philosophy until I experience the opposite. And maybe that's not always going to be in the case, and I shouldn't let one game skew my perspective, and maybe I would do it the exact same way again, but I'm here to tell you, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that can happen. You could do the half points on them, they could bug out, and then the rest of the list can give you fits for long enough for them to be aggressive right away again, or a turn or two later. I think still the general thing is to keep them honest, force them to use tricks to get out. Dare them to be aggressive, but still position yourself to be able to attack the rest of the list. Probably puts you in the best spot to win the game, even if unfortunately a result that you had went poorly.
Yeah, it was pretty dismaying. I was super confident, and I'm like, how did I lose that game? Yeah, it was disappointing.
So, any other things about Adepticon anyone wants to chat about? Maybe even beyond X-Wing, is anyone going there for the first time? No,
all of us are vets. We've all been vets. There. Yeah,
cool.
Easily my favorite convention, without a doubt. I think it's the most relaxed, and it's all about the games, not as much about shopping or hype for new games and new releases.
It's not like a Gen Con or anything,
right?
Or anything like that. It's just so focused on getting your games in, all of these miniature kind of games and playing. For me, I don't think there's been a convention where I've done uniformly worse than at Adepticon. This will be my third or fourth, and I am just a train wreck every single time I go. But I enjoy it, right? We all go. It's the great convention to go to where you get to see everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
it's Adepta. I do not have a good record at System Open so far either, and I've only been to one, but it's been Adepticon. So we'll have to see if I have the same bug you have, Gordon.
The competition is amazing, but I can't help it. It's the one to be at.
Now, Gordon, you have a special competition at Adepticon, don't you?
Well, you're only getting this from what I know, and I only kind of know about this because you guys told me this was going to happen. I don't really know how this is going to go, and maybe OCX can facilitate this. But supposedly there's some kind of grudge match between me and Coach on Thursday, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know the specifics of it until I was told to pick 4 lists that were quote-unquote balanced.
Have you settled on 4 lists?
I have settled on 3. One I had to tweak, and then the 4th one I made myself.
All right. So for those who don't know, this is the theory. I don't know how this came about. But there's this large OCX chat, and Jesus, the wild, wild west in there. And somehow they got a wild hair up their rears that Coach and I were going to play each other in some kind of grudge match at Adepticon. Fine, whatever. And so once this started getting once we started getting closer to Adepticon, this started getting a little more traction in the discussion. And so I put out the theory of let's just make this a quick build list. If you've listened to my podcast, Stay on Target, I've just been a raging fanboy over the quick build format because it is so much fun if you can do something less than the 8 points. If you're going to do 8 points, then you might as well just play a regular 200-point match. But the nice thing about quick builds, say in the 6-point range, is you can play something that's interesting that you haven't played before, that's insanely illegal because you don't get these kind of combinations in a regular list. And so you get to have some fun playing with stuff that you've never tooled around with before. And because it's something you haven't played with before, you will discover your headspace in a different state, and you will really, really enjoy it. And it's not that bad. There's still some, even though you may look at it and go, oh gosh, if this was an extended format, this would be broken because they raised this by 15 points. You're still going to find it's very, very balanced. You've just stuck in this quandary of like, do I bring 2 ships or do I bring 3 ships? Or do I bring 4? And they kind of scale in diminishing ability once you get up into the 4 ship range. And it's a lot of fun. So I threw that out there and I said, tell you what, make it a quick build. Furthermore, make it a pool. Let's come up with 4 lists, and then Coach and I will dice off, and the winner gets to pick their choice out of the 4 lists, and then, the other person can just pick their response. So obviously they need to be balanced because whoever wins the dice, if they take the broken list and there is no measured response, that's going to suck. So burden is on Ontopski to come with 4 balanced lists where whoever is picking second still has a chance. Okay. Now, did we lose Ryan, or is he still there? I'm seeing an OCX Radio Live there, and I don't know if he's got him or not. That was so amazing. Okay, Ryan, you there? No, I think we lost him. Okay. All right.
Screen looks frozen on my end.
Yeah. Yep. He got a little bit of movement, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
He's moving his head. He's moving his
back.
head. We'll see. He's back. Okay. Did you hear any of that?
My internet just blipped down and out. I assume you just kind of went over the quick build thing and the 6-point limitation.
And then as long as you make it balanced, because let's say Coach wins, right? And then he picks the most overpowered list out of the 4. And now I'm looking at my 3 choices going, none of these things can beat that, right? So the pressure's on you, Ryan, to make certain that no matter what Coach picks or I pick, that the person who picks second can pick a measured response.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a counter, but something that has a chance.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that was a pure counter. I mean, there was some definitely questionable submissions because they're like, not to call anyone out specifically because I don't know who submitted the list, but if you put Lorik next to a ghost, Lorik giving that ship an evade doesn't do anything unless they're at range 3.
Because a ghost doesn't get to defend.
Correct. It has no defense dice. Can't gain evade. But like so once I heard about they were pre-submitted, I was so sad because by the way, I spent like an hour and a half finding lists that I built myself to 8 points to try and find balance for you guys. Then I found out they were already pre-made and they were 6 points. I found like the coolest quick build, I think, out of all factions and all ships.
Well, too bad you can't tell me because I don't want to know.
Well, it's not being used. It's not in any of the lists.
All right, let's hear it. Well, it's your choice, right? If you still have 1 to go, why don't you put it in there?
Because I wanted to make them all faction different.
Gotcha.
And Rebels was already taken by something else.
All right, so let's hear it.
So this is like straight out of Rogue One. It's Heftaber U-Wing with, now get this, because this is quick build, they let this happen. Has an ion cannon turret. So everyone that had that fantasy about the U-Wing that has a turret, this is the U-Wing. It's got the ion cannon turret. Bistan's gunning that shit. He's got the perceptive co-pilot, and they got fire control system.
How many points is that ship?
That's the scene when they're like tearing apart that 18 CT or whatever it is, and like blowing the knee out and it falls down.
Yep.
That's the idea.
So you have to cackle every time you play the ship.
Yeah. So it's 3 points for quick build.
Nice. You got room for something else in there.
I mean, I was looking at like, hey, Kyle Katarn with Moldy Crow's only 2 points. And then I started to build things together because I was thinking 8, not 6.
Mm-hmm.
So then like Kyle Katarn with Moldy Crow's 2. So you're left with 3 more. So then I threw in like Dutch, who's 2 points. with a proton torpedo, I think. Yeah, he's proton torpedo R3. So that combination is 7. It's 1 over. But you have like Kyle to pass some focuses just in case. You got Dutch to target lock to get the fire control system for Haftauber. That U-wing was gonna do some shit. It was glorious.
Yeah, that sounds like a great start for an 8.1. I mean,
I help you not put something broken on the table. That's why we go with 6. Now, question for you 3: have any of you guys played in quick build yet?
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah, there's.
Can I just simply say that you gentlemen are all playing X-Wing wrong? And maybe you need to make some corrections in your lives. You need to reflect on your choices here. It is so much fun. Guys, I'm telling you it is. It is good. I don't know where you are, but personally, I've reached a point, because we just brought this up on our last episode, we're kind of hyperspace burnt out. Here we were saying a month ago, gosh, I don't think I want to play anything other than hyperspace. It's fair, it's fair, it's balanced, blah, 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 blah. And now we're like, for the love of God, give me something else to do. I'm telling you, keep doing something different, and it's just going to keep your passion alive and your excitement and your enjoyment alive. Mm-hmm. You may not believe me until you tinker with the 6-point quick build list and your opponent does, and you put it on the table. You are going to have fun. God forbid. That's what this is all about. Give it a try.
I was still having fun in like the last half year of 1.0, so I don't think like hyperspace or extended is going to burn me out.
Hang on, I want you to repeat that. I'm sorry. Did you say you were having fun in the last half of 1.0?
I was.
Because why?
Because Quick
you
Draw
weren't flying Ghost Fen?
An awesome list.
Because he could dumpster Ghost Fens with his awesome double silencer Quick Draw.
With the exception of Michael, who's a freak of nature, having fun with 1.0. What's wrong with you?
Hey, I had fun. I had Bob. You leave him alone.
No, Bob was awesome. You were actually a bright, shining light at the end of 1.0. That was fantastic.
Yay.
So anyway, I have no idea what the consequences this will be. It's just supposed to be something we're going to do on Thursday. I don't know when. I'm heading out that morning, and I'll get there sometime in the afternoon. So I'm assuming we're going to get together and play this game. The idea is now here's the one thing: you better not have put a frickin' party bus or some kind of YV66 in one list, because he's just going to grab that regardless. Make Coach fly something out of his comfort zone. Do not put a YV66 in the scum list.
I can neither confirm nor deny that all the scum lists submitted were all
change that list right now. I know for a fact you're doing that. It's not even a choice at this point. You might as well just go, Gordon, here are your 3 lists. Pick one. Doesn't matter if you go first or second, because
as I said, I can neither confirm nor deny that
you're a moron.
All the submitted lists were YV666 scum included.
You're an idiot. Whatever. Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you that where I started for scum was literally Dengar and Forlom, because Dengar got the R4 Astromech, which
Forlom is awesome. He is such an amazing control ship if he can stick around to the end. That'd be great. That's a great list. Good.
Speaking of quick build, you know what I mentioned in the chat where I was like, hey, there's just some ships that are like, remember the old days? Like this Dengar for 3 points in quick build has proton torpedo, expert handling, contraband cybernetics, punishing one, and normally small ship only, R4 Astromech.
It's still a crappy. It's still a crappy. I don't care what they do to it.
Basically, R4 Astromech says, "Here's your old dial."
No, not quite.
Without the white sloop, whatever.
It's bad. It's bad.
I challenge you to
You put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig.
No, I challenge you to bring that Dengar quick build to your quick build event. I think you will be perfectly fine.
Well, you know what? Maybe if that's one of the 4, that's what I'm flying.
There's a lot of YV66s to get through.
God, if you put that on the table,
I'm not pushing it. It's what was given to me. I'm sorry.
No.
You told me I had to filter the people. I can only filter them so much.
You're here to filter Aaron. Do not put that on the table, you idiot. All right, whatever. You know what? Fine. Then I will take it out of spite just so he can't have it.
Well, what if you don't get the first pick?
Oh, I'm gonna grab a loaded die. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna win the roll off, and then I'm taking those.
I say the winner of shotgunning a beer gets the first pick.
Oh God. Well, then let's just give it to Coach right now.
All right. I think it's time to close this out for some shout outs. Michael, who do you have to shout out?
Yeah, I'll shout out to all the Arch Alliance guys.
It was good to see them in Murray, man. They traveled. Yeah. It was their good group.
Yep.
Just that one?
Yeah, just the one.
Okay. Do you have any beef with anybody? We do accept beef.
No, I'm good.
Okay. I'm good. Mark?
Hangar 19 guys, for sure. Always, they're a great team. We're always... lately, we've gotten really good at helping each other practice and really prepare for these events. So that's been great. It's been, I don't know, I guess really since 2.0, there's been a lot of momentum. And then I guess always just to, keep throwing out the this campaign against cancer that's coming up. So if there's one close to you, think about going. I guess.
For sure. Gordon?
Do we have the dates on that? I forget. When is that?
May 18th, I believe.
May 18th.
I know May 18th specifically because we were not allowed to put our hyperspace trial there in Michigan. We had to do it.
What is the URL? What is it? Something X-Wing info or .info or something like that? I forget what his webpage is.
I'm not sure.
Someone do a search for campaign against cancer X-Wing. Chad's good. You know what? I'm not worried about it. Chad doesn't listen to podcasts. He's not going to hurt me. So yeah, that's a great shout out. Campaign against cancer is coming up. It's getting more and more international. Definitely go do that. Mm-hmm. My shout out is to you, Mark. I love you, man, and you know it.
Thank you, Gordon. Love you too, bud.
All right.
Very awesome.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna shout out to all the OCX people that we're gonna see at Adepticon. All you gentlemen here that we're gonna see at each other at Adepticon. Mm-hmm. We're all gonna have a merry time with many drinks and many ships and much pew pew. Yeah. So it's gonna be great. And shout out to my local guys. Also, just like you guys, I think the best thing I think anyone can do if you want to help build a community is don't treat everyone you play against as like rivals really badly. Like talk to the people, go back and forth with stuff, bounce ideas, and really feel like you're building that squad. Squads are great to have a group of people.
If you do not have a group of people where you are constantly bouncing squad ideas off of, you are doing X-Wing wrong. Get at least one person and run stuff by. Guy, the crates highlighted this. It is just the best advice ever. Have a chat group, something where you're just throwing stuff around and list building and coming up with stuff. It's super helpful.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So we'll leave it off and so if you guys, gentlemen who may not watch the show as much, at the end, we do a end of episode 6 Yub Nub. So Gordon, start it off.
No.
Got to end with the Yub Nub.
Jeez.
All
right. Who remembers that? Do they even? This is the song that's like in the latest version of Return of the Jedi. They got rid of it, right? That this is a song that's no longer even part of the horribly corrected George Lucas. Right? Don't they come up with something else now?
Correct, Gordon. And I started the Yub Nub for you, and you just kept talking. Thanks. You're the worst.
Because it's what I do. Fine. Ready? Yub Nub. I'll be. You know what? If I see Michael say Yub Nub, I will be thrilled. Say it, Michael.
Fade it out, Montana. Yeah, he probably faded it out at this point. No problem.
Yeah, this is where Michael claims my mic's not working.
You weren't paying attention, Gordon.
That's also common to me.
All right, so after this, we just stay live for a little bit and do what we call the shit show. Anyone who needs to leave can leave, though, if you wish.
Yeah, I gotta head out. We got work in the morning.
All right, it's good having you here. What do you
do real quick before you bail?
What's up?
What do you do real quick? What do you do?
I'm a scientist.
Oh, nice. You get paid for that. Wow.
He's called biophysical for a reason.
Yeah.
So besides the general term, I'm a scientist, can you elaborate further?
Yeah, so I work in a plant that they extract enzymes from a variety of sources, and I'm sort of part of the development and troubleshooting team for making new processes and figuring out what goes wrong when processes don't work.
God, I was a bio major, and Biochemistry and physics just did me in. Because labs, I could not. So here's the thing: I could never reproduce what was expected in the lab, and then you've got to write up in your stupid journal, "Why did you fail and suck so bad?" And then I couldn't explain it, so I was like, "Oh, I hate this. I'm out."
Yeah, biophysics is basically biochemistry using tools from physics to do your.
You are everything that I failed at in school. Thank you for that, Michael.
Well, I mean, everybody fails all the time at science, so like, I don't know why that would have stopped you.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like, it's one thing to fail, but then you got to be able to explain it. And I think my teachers just kind of judge me harshly for it.
Yeah, I mean, you usually have to do a few more experiments before you know why you failed. So
it's probably lazy student syndrome. All right, get out of here. Go away.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed your time on the show for the first time.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, no problem. Happy anytime.
All right. See you later.
See you.
At Depticon, hopefully.
Yes, I will see you there.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Gordon.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Yeah.
All right, where are we at with the content for my show?
I am pretty much nowhere. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Wait, what?
Yeah, all my focus is on Adepticon, and I got slammed with commissions the last couple of weeks, so I'm trying to catch up on those. But
that's cool. We're not in any rush. Do you want to share with what we're thinking?
Yeah, we're looking at just trying to do some sort of visual representation of how would you describe it? Would you say?
Well, let's go with what you think is important. If we were to talk to, and it doesn't even have to be the beginning player. Mm-hmm. It can be an intermediate player. It can be me because I'm an idiot. How much of X-Wing just goes downhill from making some wrong decisions at the beginning of the match? I don't necessarily mean turn 0, but so much can be derived from those couple turns right before there's that initial, let's call it a joust, or that crisis moment, or whatever it is, where you could say, what if you had made this decision instead? And I don't think people appreciate that or understand that, because I certainly don't.
Oh, man.
Well, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face. And if God, I did an episode on this ages ago, because my wife is an amazing teacher, and she says, you do realize that people learn in different ways, right? And then she went into like the 9 different ways people learn.
Right.
So what if we were to demonstrate one of those methods where you're a visual learner and you need to see this, and we documented out either a game we had recorded because we're together, or whether we just played out a couple terms in Vassal, whatever it is, but we're documenting key opening moves or certain moves before certain turns in a match, where here are the different options you have. Here's maybe a mistake most people would make. Here's maybe a correct a choice you can make. Do you think that's summarizes it, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and this is going to be the impossible, and it's why it's so hard to talk about this stuff, because you need concrete examples. It's almost easier to I think what Echo Base is doing is super smart, because they're taking games that they have every single turn for, and they can break it down in the moment, and it's something, and they're breaking it down in context, and the context is what matters so much in this game, because it is pretty nuanced.
So another way of putting that is, Echo Base is limited to the list they have in the moment, and that's fair. Right. It's like we can't give an example of, well, all right, here you are with your ace list, and you're going up against a huge rebel beef swarm. So here's the choices you're going to make. Well, that doesn't help you if you're flying something else, right? That's just a context specific of here's the choices you make. And then furthermore, they're also limited by, they can only deal with the moves that were decided at the time, and then maybe pass judgment on the decisions that were made.
Right.
Whereas in this kind of format, one, we don't have to necessarily be limited to the lists. We could choose whatever lists we want. And then 2, we don't have to spell out the choices that were made by the player at the time. You can actually show different maneuvers and show, okay, this would be bad, this would be bad, this maybe is the ideal. stuff like that.
Yeah, you can kind of manipulate that. And I think what might be interesting is to actually take one game, say, okay, hey, there's this crossroads. Let's say what happens if we go down, door number 1 and how this game was play out. Rewind back to that point and then try a different door.
Correct.
And see what changes. Yeah, I think that would be, that conceit. I buy that.
So Mark and I talk about this a lot, saying, God, Vassal would be great for that, right? Because it allows you the rewind moment. Of course, you can do that in person. And he and I are open to doing either or, like I drive up or he gets someone local and he just will map out all of those different moves on the table. And then you record all of that. And then what you do is come in after the fact and you do commentary on it, regardless of the medium in which we recorded the game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I had something that I was working on in terms of that was very much about this whole decision-making process and understanding that your tree of decision-making heavily impacts no matter which decision you make, and it just waterfalls or trickles down after that to where you've a different maneuver at the beginning of a game can give you options that you do or don't have based upon the maneuver that you do. So even if it's not an engagement position and you're in an area where your deployment, there's a big difference if you have a ship that's slowest move is a 2 straight, if it's pointing up the board or if it's pointing down the side of your board, where you can go, what you can do, and the tree from there changes based upon just where you, am I looking this way or am I looking that way, right? Mm-hmm. Up or to the side. And simple decisions like that if you can't analyze how to recognize if that decision was correct or incorrect based upon the rest of the game that occurred and how early or how far in the beginning your decision tree caused X thing to happen that didn't go your way, it's hard to analyze for sure. Because most people think of did I get myself in the engagement correctly? Are my ships positioned around where they need to be? Yes or no? If they're not, where were they the turn before? Could I have gotten to a better spot from that position? If that's a no, that means the turn before that, you probably needed to be somewhere else to be in a spot in the 2 turns later on that could react or change differently. So, and then I was writing up something that dealt with analyzing how you can read your opponent. And a lot of this might tailor itself to Travis's mention about the beatdown and the control, if you've did the first reader series for Crate. But it was also analyzing how you can decide if a player is erring on the side of aggression or defensive or passive reactionary, or if they're taking the route of disruption. If they're not trying to gain an offensive advantage or defensive advantage, but they're trying to mess up your game plan in some manner, and how to categorize and try and understand not only what their list can do, but what you believe based upon their decisions they've made so far, even just in deployment, if they're going to be aggressive, defensive, passive reactionary, or disruptive.
Yeah. And so the point is getting, I think more importantly, is getting new players to be thinking about these concepts to begin with and understand just this conversation we just had, what we mean by that. Because there's such a huge ripple effect and consequences from these kind of decisions that are made. I know for a fact I screw this up all the time. And I know for a fact this is why I lose a lot of games. Mark and I have played a lot of games, and he is so much better at this than I am. And that is why he has a huge record against me when it comes to most of our matches. And he knows this is a weak part of all beginners. And so he's trying to get people up to this level to think in these terms. And I think if we can talk about this till we're blue in the face in the abstract, I understand this is what needs to happen, but it doesn't mean I can get there. And maybe because I've just got a learning block when it comes to trying to conceptualize this. So maybe if we put this in a visual medium, it can help somebody else. Mm-hmm. I think that was the intent, right, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we can figure something out that is effective, because, I think a lot of people try this, and there's a lot of amazing resources. Like, I bet I haven't read that reader series, but from what you've explained, it sounds great. But to take that and I actually have it affect your games. I who knows, like if anybody's actually going to learn from that and be better. Like it sounds like an amazing essay, but I don't know if that's actually going to help. Like
well, it is a first step. I mean, it's a good starting point. If you've got a brand new person and you're like, look, this guy's going to write this better than I can explain it to you. And so now can we have a common language, which is I've got you thinking about range control. I've got you thinking about that initial engagement. I've got you thinking about these what if scenarios where if I do this as opposed to that.
Yeah.
That's fine. But executing that and pulling off is another matter altogether.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's the heart of the game is like, okay, just because you and I both agree this is the key turn, that doesn't mean I can pull this off. I have faith in my ability to screw it up most of the time. So
if you look in the Hangouts chat, that's the link to the document Travis made. It mainly references like the terminology beatdown and control come from card games and particularly Magic and how that translates to X-Wing and understanding what each of them are. Like, let me see if I can turn 0. I'm just trying to see if they can do if he's got that quick example of like what is the beatdown and what is the control. I mean, it's generally the concept of in every match there's a beatdown player and a control player. Actions can be taken to change one's role in a situation. The control player should always scout so as to be sure of what the beatdown player is doing, so as to have the correct response when the beatdown player eventually moves out. Harassment is a synergistic with this role. Delaying the push is always good when you have the better economy. The key word of the control player is inevitability. So they have the general advantage going into a matchup, and they're trying to control their game to maintain their inevitable victory. The beatdown player has the burden of action. It's fine to be the beatdown player, but just remember, the longer you're the beatdown player, the worse your chances become. The key word for the beatdown player is quick action. So they need to turn their favor and turn the tide to them becoming the control player earlier, because the longer the control player has their inevitable advantage of winning, the less likely the beatdown player can turn it.
The problem I have with all of this is while all of this language and all of these terms may accurately describe what is taking place, and you may have a complete mastery of all that, that doesn't mean you then, because I am the master of these terms and these languages, have the ability to suddenly turn myself around. I understand these are labels in terms of strategy, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, because there's still some finite reality. My ship can only go here or here, and my dice are only going to be whatever they're going to be. And so all this language is doing is maybe describing the results, not necessarily just because I gave it some label, I'm now suddenly doing something different in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that perspective. What I'm looking at it for is, and I don't yet know because I haven't put into practice, but I want to try it. If realizing and knowing what I am of a beatdown or control, like beyond that being a key word, just understanding the whole, not just like who has the general advantage in this game, but understanding why I have that advantage and how I can maintain that advantage. Because just a lot of people equate I have advantage in this game equals to if I'm aggressive, I can push my victory further. But the caveat to that is, say you have the advantage because let's say you have a, I don't know, 3 aces and proton, and like say Poe 9 Lulo. Poe and 9 have proton torpedoes, and they're going up against a Rebel Beef squad, and they think I have the damage, I have the aces, I can dodge and shoot what I want. But in some players' minds, they think because I have the advantage and I should win this game, they might just end up in a joust where maybe one Y-Wing is half healthed or close to dead, but they lose 9 or Poe, right? So it's how to correctly recognize why you have the advantage and how to maintain it if you're that player. And if it's the other way around, what do you have to do and set up your engagement to turn that advantage against the opponent player or get the advantage back on your side?
Can I simplify all this?
Sure.
let's just make this a learning moment, because I think this is a truism no matter what. Winning X-Wing is taking all of your list and putting it against some of their list.
Yeah.
And losing X-Wing is vice versa, where some of your list
a lot of that's purely range control.
Yeah. And the game really does come down to that. Now, once that fight starts, at that point, there's just a whole lot of, all right, are we just maintaining shots? Are we disengaging and coming back in again? Because these concepts tend to apply while the majority of ships are on the board. But it really does come down to, could you recognize moments where I could bring all of my guns to bear on part of their list, and as a result, they can only bring part of their list of guns to bear on all of mine? I'm now got the advantage. And that just goes a long way in winning lists. Now, just because you know that doesn't mean you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But those who can make that happen every single time are going to tend to win most games. And I think all of this language about everything ultimately comes down to that simple description.
Yeah.
And I think that's where 5As have a solid advantage. If they want to bring guns to bear, they can.
And I keep finding a way to screw that up. I need you two to teach me how to do better.
Did you? I tagged you in the thing. I showed you the vassal pictures I had with.
Oh God, I use that opening all the time and still found a way to like. Oh God, here I am jousting 3 T-70s. Whoops.
I think you got to find the part of their list that you can just kill as quickly as possible and just pounce on it.
Yeah, I think so in putting this into practice, if the A-Wing is the control player or the advantage player, you want to maintain that advantage. Most likely you have the advantage because numbers and time on target. And that generally equates to you have more arcs / more ships on the board that can do consistent damage. You have to maintain that advantage by destroying one of their ships and keeping others from shooting at you at the same time, to where you're wearing down their list faster than they can wear you down. Which
just
sounds,
I know it doesn't mean I can do it.
Yeah, it sounds simple and like, oh duh, of course I want to kill their stuff before mine. But that doesn't mean you put yourself in a spot to where if I don't kill them, they're going to kill me, and then that means my A-Wings are now down a ship, and that actually severely takes away your advantage.
I was on a drive back from Murray with Mike Gott, right? We call him Rebel Mike. Mark, you may be familiar with him. Local to me. Mm-hmm. He had done a couple tours in, I think in Afghanistan, at least one, maybe two. He was a sergeant. And so he was in charge of his Joes and stuff, as he likes to say. And so he's always full of all kinds of wisdom. And he says, simple doesn't mean easy. Yeah. All right. So just because the recipe is simple, which is kill what, like what you just said, right? Find the ship you can kill the quickest, right? Simple. Doesn't mean it's easy, right? You still have this burden of execution of getting your ships in the right place and doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. I understand the simple concepts. It is simple. And yet I find a way to fail. I find a way to screw it up every time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weirdly, those A-Wings remind me a lot of like triple defenders.
I have nightmares about you flying those against me. Oh, geez.
So is that what you flew a lot?
Me?
He and I, Mark, speaking of Adepticon, he and I squared up against each other with our triple... right, triple.
Wait, no, you Jump Masters. You're talking about
Triple Jump Masters made its debut when Ryan Fleming won. It's a year later. Oh, look, what shows up to Adepticon? Nothing but triple Jump Masters as far as the eye can see. And then you and I face each other in the mirror match. Mm-hmm. And I think I even get to choose the initiative that I want. And you're like, fine, I'll do this. And you still nuke me off the board.
No, I was talking about defenders, not the Jump Masters.
Oh, did I not hear a word you said?
Yeah. But basically, this the way that the way they fly is pretty different from turn post engagement, but the way they attack that first engagement is pretty similar. It's like a I can't remember what point was just made when I brought that up. Thank you, Gordon.
That's my fault.
Yeah. But I think it's just one of those things where you can fly in the way that you can get as many shots as you can while making them split fire. Like you can you can always attack from all these different angles that usually the other lists can't achieve. So I don't know. It's because that's why I love it, but it also could be like why that if you don't, if you're accidentally running away with half the list while the other one's still in the fight and can't get all of them together, that's where you can start, getting your A-wings isolated and they start dying. I don't know. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna pack 4 Phantoms. I'm gonna pack Vader and 3 Phantoms, and I'm taking the A-wings, and I'm just going.
Well, technically, you're packing 4 Phantoms, Vader, and 5 A-wings.
Yeah, just bring Phantoms just in case.
Yeah, I've got 3 MDARs. I've got 4, whatever the initiative 4 ones are, and then the question is like 3 Juke, and then do I run crack on the other? Do I actually go 1 naked for a 1-point bid? Who cares? Am I running FCS hate or am I running afterburners on Vader? And then, yeah, the 5 A-wings. So,
yeah,
it's a little late in the game to change.
Yeah,
I could not bring myself to run the 4 Phantoms because it's like if I do not go 5-1 with it,
yeah, I just don't have any interest in it either. It really is going to be interesting to find out if Adepticon, if that. It's not really a trend because it's only happened once, but at Toronto, like I said, it was predominantly hyperspace legal lists. Is that just going to happen again?
Well, a good example of one that's not is like, say, that great match between, say, Kalen and the B-Wings and Zeb, right? You're looking for a super cheap Leia carrier, which is what the shuttle did. That wasn't hyperspace legal.
Did you say
the B-Wings were not
great match or great matchup?
Both. I mean, I think that was like the top 8 match, if I remember.
That was the final match where he.
That was the board. That was right. These were the 4 and 2, but still, right? These were like what 4 and 1 lists looking to find out who was going to be, who's going to make the cut. I think that was right. This was round 6. That's still good. If someone told you, tell you what, you're going to be 4 and 1 going into the final match, I can guarantee you that. Would you take it?
Yeah.
Of course you would. Right? I'll take any list that's going to let me be 4 and 1 with the chance to make the cut by going 5 and 1. And that's what those lists were. And Kalen ended up ultimately winning with his. So, neither of those are hyperspace legal, and they still aren't.
Yeah. Part of me.
Well, the Z95s are in now. Maybe those are on the Rebel side.
Where are the Z's in for Rebels?
No, they're in. They just got added to Scum because
strictly Scum. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So those are both
A-wings and B-wings. Yeah.
Both extended lists that may show up a bunch, because that was a common theme, which was some kind of alternative Leia carrier other than the U-wing, which showed up.
Yeah.
And extended has lots of options for that.
I mean, Falcon's a Leia carrier.
You're
just more combative.
You needed to find a way to have 5 ships. Falcon doesn't let you do that.
Well, yeah. Caitlin brought 6.
I'm talking about the alternative Kalen list, the alternative U-wing carriers.
I started with that one first, and then when Kalen talked about his list on Scum and Villainy, I got more convinced to try that one out. Just because when he mentioned it's if I just have these 4, only 4 ships are combative, whereas all 6 Kalen's are meant to fight. Zeb's not really meant to fight. The U-wing can still fight and coordinate. It's got 3 dice. It's viable to shoot with.
Here's a dilemma for you. So, local to you guys have tournaments this weekend?
Yeah, actually a lot of stuff this week.
Okay. Are they extended or hyperspace?
Extended.
Okay. That same here.
Unknown, unknown, free play, extended, I think.
All right, so let's say all 3 of us are staring at an extended event this weekend, because we are. You're in a bit of a pickle. Do you play with your new toys, or do you bring something because you need to practice for Adepticon next week? What do you do?
I'll say if I want to bring my new toys, I may as well just fly 5 A-wings at Adepticon, because then I have the practice for it.
Right. Yeah.
If I want to be serious about trying something else, I should probably take some time to at least like in the free play night, just bring the ones I'm thinking about flying Adepticon and the fun stuff. The thing for me that's kind of making it easier is because at Crate Cup, I won some store credit and I ordered a lot of my Separatist stuff from them. So mine's not actually getting until next week because it's got to hit their store and then come to me. But because the ARC article drew me so much into checking out at least a type of Republic squad, I'll probably buy my Republic stuff and a few more Separatist things because I didn't get everything Separatist that I wanted from Atomic Empire.
All right. I appreciate the real world considerations in terms of availability, but imagine in a hypothetical, you could fly whatever you wanted to this weekend.
Oh,
what do you do?
Stuff. I'd probably
do you
fly
practice? You in other words, we're talking about I want to play with the new toys and get familiar with what they can do versus I need reps because I'm going to Adepticon next week.
Yeah, I'd take the reps. I have plenty of time to play Wave 3, but Adepticon's next week.
So you basically tell me to bring A's this weekend.
Well, do you think you need more reps with the A's at this point?
I suck. I can always use reps.
Else. So the A's are a backup for me right now. So if I can find something else that I will enjoy for 6 rounds, then I'll play that. But if I can't, yeah, like enjoy and feel competitive, like feel like I can go 5-1 with it. So,
sure.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the problem. Really, Adepticon is terrible timing for me because everything that sounds super fun is Rebel right now, and I've been holding off on getting my Rebel conversion kit to try to focus on these other things right when Wave 3 is coming out, which isn't legal. So it's like,
are you telling me if you had your Rebel conversion kit, you might be tempted to bring a Rebel beef list?
I would not be bringing Rebel beef. I would probably be considered more at Rebel Aces. But I just like what kind of options Rebel has right now. So they seem like the coolest. It's stuff like with Corrin and Leia, like it just him being able to be.
So you think
Marcel's list,
similar to Marcel's list?
Yeah, I think it's there. And what I really like is what was it? I can't remember who was locally playing it and what the loadout was, but
Jason. I was facing against a Lando Corrin list and he smoked me. I went 2-ship list, you idiot.
Oh, right.
Everyone knows you don't bring 2-ship lists into 2.0 and he dumpstered me. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But but they just seem the coolest. Like I love cheap good aces. Not that Corrin falls in that category, but like Luke and Wedge right now. It's like basically like that Squad of Legend. My favorite part of that was just like the Soontir with Predator. It was just so simple and impressive. Like you
can still bring it, you just don't get a bid.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that list has problems, but like I am looking at, like I was looking at that at the Netherlands results, and I don't know if it was second. One of the top 4 guys was just Vader, Soontir, Duchess. And it's got like a 12-point bid and a couple shield upgrades, and that list is hilarious. And
yeah, Duchess is great.
The closest to what I would be interested in Rebel. Yeah, it's stuff like that I'm most intrigued by right now. But I don't think without a ton of practice I couldn't go 5-1 with that. Like with this short of time to get ready for it. So I think that's really the issue I'm running into. Yeah.
That should be interesting. Because I know everyone's going to want to play with their new toys this weekend. So I should just bring A's and just see how it fares.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where I am too, for sure. Hey, speaking of which, you better bring my dials because I'm relying on you for that.
What dials? What are you talking about? Mikhail brought that up. She's like, "Are you joking?" Or you have to go, "Yeah, I got them."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now that you say that, I better go make certain I have them.
I got it with all these like stores I'm going to. I got to find one that's got magnets because my Greer that broke.
Oh. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Fix my Greer.
You can't use super glue?
I'd rather do magnets if I can.
All right.
Does.
Yeah.
Look, it's after midnight for all of us, and there's 16 people still listening to this.
Are there really?
Yes.
What the hell?
I know.
What's wrong with
I know
people?
I'm amazing and everything, but I'm not that amazing.
Yeah.
It's called the shit show for a reason, but I guess that's what they're here for.
I guess so. All right.
Yeah, 16. Who's in here?
Shit show.
participants.
There's now a part of me going, you mean I can disappoint 16 people right now as opposed to 5? That sounds like a great idea. The number just increased. Are you serious? That's just one of you guys clicking on YouTube. I know what that is.
That was me. Yeah, go check it out.
All right.
It probably was me at least. So Jacob Lohr, I think his name, how do you pronounce it? He had asked specifically for some mall analysis, and because he wasn't here before we discussed it. So a couple things to note that I mentioned earlier with mall, you should probably look at. You're likely only decloaking once a game, and I doubt a necessity to recloak unless you're actually disengaging, because it's a stressful action. So because of that, you mall with the amount of points investment you might put into them. You want to punish your opponent for shooting you as much as you can, and there are upgrades to do that. Grievous Crew is pretty good because you only have 1 agility when you are getting shot and you're shooting them. So he has a way to lower the amount of damage incoming, because most likely if a 3 dice attack is shooting at you and you're 1 agility, you're probably taking 2 most of the time. So that 2 can become 1 with Grievous by spending his charge. Another great crew is Chancellor Palpatine. Just make them really, really sad for shooting you by stressing them. Granted, they have to be 0 to 2. I'm surprised you assume you want that title. Oh no, are you with Gordon? Do you not like taking Scimitar? Please respond. You should be taking Scimitar. If you put hate on Maul is almost a gimme. Chancellor Palpatine is you just keep him on the one side and just say, I'm rebel captive and I'm going to get my force back all the time, and I'll rebel captive all your ships if they're at range 1 to 2. Even if Leia is involved in a rebel squad, okay, he's messing with me. He said, yeah, you take Scimitar.
Did I read this correctly? If you were to put Dooku in there, now you have a pool of 4 force, and so suddenly it becomes difficult to trigger. Is it Maul's ability or is it Dooku's ability? Which is like if you're full on force.
Technically, you could put Dooku and Chancellor Palpatine crew on there and have 5 force.
Sure.
Okay, but when it says you must be at full force, is it talking about in the collective sense across all force users?
Yeah, it's Dooku crew.
Yeah, it would be easiest on a ship that doesn't have a force ability.
Yep. Yeah, I've looked at scimitars that aren't force users to carry Dooku crew because he would proc more often. Yeah. And then Jacob, one trick that was shown to me a while ago when the cards were announced, and this is something that's also make it difficult for your opponent to say, I'm going to put a lot of fire into Maul because they're not going to actually get a lot of output in the first turn, is if you put the TAC relay K2B4, which granted, I'm super high on Kraken, but this is the one spot I think this other TAC relay is good, K2B4. While a friendly ship at 0 to 3 defense, it may spend 1 calculate if it does add an evade or they gain a strain. Granted, if it's a kill shot, your opponent will take the strain, but with Maul having so much health, probably less likely they're going to kill you fast enough to where this won't at least happen once. So you're adding an evade. So if you roll an evade and you add an evade, that's 2. That's pretty good. And then you can save Grievous for another shot. And you get the calculate by using DFS 311, who gives you that calculate at the start of engagement. Then you could build out the list from there. Basically, Maul, Hate, Palp, Grievous Crew, Scimitar, K2B4, DFS 311 Vulture, and then 3 Precise Hunters, and you have 4 points left.
All right, let's start over with that. I'm sorry, I want to hear that again.
Yeah, I like that.
Let me work with you on that. All right, so Sith Infiltrator with who? Maul?
It's in Maul. Maul is the pilot.
All right, go again. Scimitar title, because
because
God forbid you don't have that. All right.
I think it's too cheap to not include.
All right.
Hate.
Good. Yeah.
Palp Crew.
God, Palp Crew pricey. All right.
I mean, he's only 14. I expect him to be 18. Rebel
and
Captive.
This is for the stress thing, right? This makes him.
Yep. Don't even flip it over.
All right.
You're not coordinating anything. You're the main ship.
All
that's
right.
the cool thing about. That's the really cool thing about Palp Crew is that you have one side that says I am protecting the ship I'm on by being scary to shoot at. Otherwise, I take a negative effect. On the other side, I'm gonna help my friendly ships as much as possible. Grievous crew, which Jacob wants me to read off. While you defend after the neutralize result step, if there are 2 or more hit or crit results, you may spend 1 charge to cancel 1 hit or crit. And it's just after a friendly ship is destroyed, recover a charge, because it's not a reoccurring charge.
So good with the swarm.
Yes. And then you put on K2B4 is the tack relay he's carrying. And this just, it helps him more than his allies. But the reason why I don't do energy shell charges on, say, the vultures is because there's no Kraken to help maintain the calculate. So you're counting on those missiles going off by just taking the calculate action every time. Whereas precise hunters will just have, if you have the bullseyes and you have 3 of them, which can help surround things, can get those rerolls working. Yeah.
All right. So we got 3 precise hunters, and then what's the 4th? The 5th ship?
The 4th vulture is DFS 311 because he is required to pass that calculate to get that K2B4 to even work. So your vultures are a little more defensive. If they die, Grievous crew charge re-ups, and then Maul's difficult to kill because of Grievous crew and K2B4 adding those evades.
All right. So where should these 4 points go? Because there is no real 1 point benefit mod for any of these droids.
You could actually put grappling struts on 311 and say, stay there, keep calculating, and give them to me. And this is like that is the full equal thing. And again, if people are, because you guys don't watch Rick and Morty as much, but this is literally the definition of all you do is pass the butter. All he does is pass the calculate.
Doesn't even move. I love it.
Yep. You just stick him on a rock, try and land on that rock where it's going to be obstructed shot whenever someone's shooting at him, and say, just keep giving Maul calculates. That's all I care about.
All right. Done.
Yeah.
1 point bid.
Yep.
Oh, don't forget the free jamming beam.
I'm going to use it so much.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, that Maul's pretty expensive, but
if you don't bring the grappling struts, I guess you could always throw seismics on Darth Maul.
That might not
to
be
deny
bad
somebody their tower defense strat.
Mm-hmm.
Not even tower defense, but you're also denying Han his rocks. You're denying. I mean, it's greatly surprising how. And wait, can you? You can't decloak and drop a bomb at the same turn, can you? I don't think you can. I think it's in the rules reference. You can't do that.
I have no idea.
I think
Tommy.
Right. That
Tommy.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. Tommy's in chat. Save us, Tommy.
Tommy, tell us. I think we're right. You cannot decloak and drop a bomb at the same turn. Excuse me. Yeah, Mad Medic knows. What is my purpose? You pass the butter. You pass the calculate.
Someone.
I mean, technically 4 points left. You can give one of those hunters a.
My friend gave a name to Maul and a bunch of droids as a list squad name, and he called it Maul Rats, like from the Kevin Smith film.
There you go.
MAUL.
That's good. That's solid.
Yeah, Tommy says nope. Cannot decloak and drop bomb. So,
on any other ship, there's so much there's so many things on this Maul that make you not want to shoot at him.
Yeah,
on any other ship, I would say it's too much. But with him being able to shoot twice every turn potentially, every 3 turns.
Well, I mean, if you got hate.
Yeah, if he's getting shot. But I'm basically wondering, like, if you just leave Maul alone, is he able to punish you? And I think he can. That's my point. So.
His damage output, because his action could just be target lock and say, if my initial roll is shit and I don't want to spend my target lock, I'll use my ability to reshoot you again.
Exactly.
Or if I'm fine with it and I just spend force, I save my target lock for the second shot and I dare my opponent to evade it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the gunner conundrum. Or I just say, cool, I hit you. I'm going to hit your buddy over there.
Right.
Like, sure, next guy. So yeah, no, like I'm going to stress you if you're shooting me within range 0 to 2. I'm going to mitigate any shot that's over 2 damage coming into me because of Grievous Crew on the initial engagement. I'm moderately harder to pin down as a big base because I have Scimitar, and then I have an auto evade unless you take a strain. So you're gonna tell me you're gonna take a strain and a stress? I mean, if it means you're killing Maul, sure.
Yeah, worth it. But you're talking usually about open engagement here, and
if you can get that opening engagement in your favor fast enough, that's what's going to help keep Maul alive longer and doing his thing.
Yeah, and when you add that unknown of Scimitar decloak, I like that. I like this a lot.
See, so now I'm wrestling. Do I bring 5 A-Wings or fly this weekend? Just new toys.
This weekend, yeah. This, I just wish I could play Wave 3 at Adepticon. Like that's all I wanted, but no, it had.
You can in a trial.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not playing that.
well, if you get your priorities straight.
Yeah.
The other interesting about that K2B4 in this specific list is because you're not taking Discord missiles or energy shell charges, you're not trying to save those calculates so badly for your offense. You spend it on defense to add an evade and tell your opponent, take a strain just because you just tried to shoot this vulture. And if you ended up in one of my bullseyes, I get a reroll. And who says one of them just doesn't natty too? It happens.
Yeah, and the fact that works on all 4 of these other ships too, that K2B4. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Just fundamentally very strong.
Yeah. I wasn't high on it initially, but obviously points cost, it's one of the cheaper ones. So there's something potentially there, but I really only think it's something when you're bringing a vultures in a degree that does not, you're not taking other things that require you to spend calculates like Seer, Discord missiles, energy shell charges. Anything that requires you to have a calculate to do something doesn't mesh well with K2B4 because it already does that. And you don't have Kraken and that. Kraken can, only one tack relay at a time. So
yeah, I do like the not in this list. I mean, a different version of this list would be fun, but just the TV94, how that synergizes with the Precise Hunters is pretty nice.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting if someone can get that off. Think Seer, TV94, and Precise Hunter. Can you do that? That is a serious investment in bullseye.
In a bullseye, right?
I'm all in. If I hit the bullseye, you are in trouble, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that seems very cool.
Seer carrying I wonder how many points that is. Just to say, I'm going to take Seer and just 3 Precise Hunters with TV94. What's left to make them? Because I don't think you build a whole swarm off it, but you can get a small contingent
it's
together.
122.
So you have 78 left.
Yeah.
I think you can fit a solid infiltrator in there.
All right, so what are we doing? 3 Precise Hunters, Seer with the Scimitar title?
No, Seer with TV94. So we're going all in on these vultures and their bullseye arcs. And we just say Maul, say Hate. Got 10 points left. Scimitar.
Which ship has the Seer? It's the.
Yeah, you can fit Grievous. Scimitar.
Seer is Belbalab.
Oh, okay, that's why.
Grievous. You have 3 points left.
With Hate, Grievous, and Scimitar. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not really anywhere to put those 3 points.
Yeah, doesn't look like it. What's the title? Oh, it's 10. Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put a hull upgrade on Maul.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sure.
Why not?
You can put a tractor beam on Maul. Oh, tractor beam in the bullseyes.
Yeah.
With one of your shots, you missed the first one, you're all right, fine. My second shot's not gonna be great, but I might fuck with you if I hit one.
All right, so I'm sorry, I'm still playing catch up. So we did Seer, we did Maul.
So Belbalab, Captain Seer, his tactical relay is TV94.
Oh, so you're putting the relay in that. All right.
Yep. 3 Precise Hunter Vulture droids.
Okay.
And just say I'm going all in on the bullseyes. You have 78 points left over. We started trying Maul. You can get a lean Maul in there with just hate.
I think that's good. The leaner, the better. That's great.
Hate, Grievous, and Scimitar.
Right?
And you have 3 points left, which can be a grappling strut on one of the Precise Hunters, I guess. But not necessary.
Like Hull, I think, is fine on Maul.
On Maul. Or I wonder what kind of Dooku we can make. Let's see, Hate, Scimitar, Dooku, 10 points left. Probably still Grievous crew anyway. They got 7 points. Oh, you could do the little probe droid thingies.
What are they?
They're in the device. They're like a bomb.
Oh, their device. Yeah,
the DRK probe droids. You could send them out and get target locks for like Seer and Precise Hunters and have all types of rerolls potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
And if nothing else, what I like about those pro droids, I don't know if they're worth 6 points, but anything that can get your opponent to making a mistake by worrying about these probe droids, I don't know. Like they seem, it's that disruption thing that you're talking about, Travis mentioning. It's like they're a tool for that, and it just gets, if you can get somebody to weirdly prioritize something as dumb as those probe droids, it could be good. But yeah, it'll be hard to get 6 points worth out of them, I think.
All right, so I'm sorry, my wife was talking to me. Where do we settle on these last 3, or did you drop the crew and do something with the other 6?
Tommy said Maul's second attack is primary only. No tractor beam. Sad. I closed it all out. So what do you have left point wise, and what do you got so far?
Well, I was at the basic last 3 points, and you were discussing hull upgrade, and I think you were theoretically exploring if you dump the crew and something else. I thought, but maybe I was wrong.
Oh, I kind of said, let's move on from Maul and try Dooku, like Dooku piloting the infiltrator, and he had a little more points to play with to add those probe droids in there. What I am interested in is the Dooku crew in the non-force using infiltrators.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, so in this version, I'm just trying to come up with a...
I'm trying to see what, because, man, Dooku crew's 9. I like 066 because he has a calculate action. He's got his ability to, when he defends, he can spend a calc to perform an action, which could be like spend calc. Now I target lock what I have in my arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the probe droids to help friendly ships out. And then I like Grievous crew for 3 points just because it mitigates the damage. So you have 127 left. Let's say we go off. We don't do the Seer thing. Let's just say do Wat Tambor.
All right. I have to go AFK a sec. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Drone, energy shell charge, 1, 2, 3. Man, I'm just concerned that if I want to, it's like if I want a synth infiltrator and a Belba lab, I'm only getting 3 vultures in almost any combination I try and build.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like enough, but
yeah, if I take out Wat Tambor and say, well, I'm just putting Kraken on the synth infiltrator. Now I have a synth infiltrator that is not a combat ship, is predominantly a support ship, and is 83 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a bit much to say. This is my old palp carrier with these weird tools to stay alive and support my ships. But now I only have like 5 vultures, and 4 of them have energy shell charges. So like you're still looking at, if all ships on target, 1, 2, 3, 5 3-dice attacks. If you get all the energy shells off, probably not, and then 1 other. But those energy shells might now have target locks because of the probe droids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was hoping that would fit a little bit nicer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just saying I'm going to spend 83 points to have a large base non-force user, not even putting the Scimitar title in yet. Like just basic move, big base ship. Not sure if I like that. I think it is just say I have to take Maul. But I mean, maybe just put too many on there. Maybe if I just say, what happens if I just take the cheapest one and Dooku Crew and the Kraken Tack Relay? Call it right there. Vulture droids.
All right, what I missed?
Energy shell. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 vultures, energy shell, 8 points left. I can put the probe droid on there just so they can get the locks. Dark courier carrying Dooku, probe droids, and Kraken, and 5 vultures with energy shell charges. Maybe. Could even make that back to the 066 and no bid, but I don't really care about one.
Yeah.
With 5 initiative 1s and 1 initiative 3.
Yeah.
And just not have Grievous Crew.
So basically it just gets you taking the infiltrator over Bubble Lab, just gets you that Dooku Crew in there.
Yeah. I'm curious as to, I mean, if I'm taking a ship that ideally is giving me the probe droids to get me the locks on the first engagement anyway, do I need Dooku Crew? Dooku Crew has this weird advantage is that, like, if your opponent goes over a rock or if they got a damage card and you say, hey, guess what? You're taking whatever I want.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of fun.
Yeah. And we've seen with Palp, very powerful, even on your own ships. Now we're talking about your opponent's ships. Like, I'm going to throw fuel on your council fire. You know, it would be interesting.
Yeah, you can fit. What's crazy is, like, you just, like, Tambor and Kraken, and then you can fit 6 with energy cell.
Tambor, Kraken. Yeah.
You think it's worth going all in on an energy cell swarm, even though it's... I know Michael's point was like, well, they can't possibly all leverage that ability, and so there'll be some ships available on the follow-up attack. But let's say after attack phase 1, okay, next turn attack phase 2, they're all kind of in that state of now none of them are using it. Now they're a bunch of 2 attack dice, 2 defense dice ships, and you know, with only 3 hull and no shields. And what do you do?
Yeah, I think they're best at, it's kind of like barrage rockets. Like, I think they're best in that opening engagement anyway, because they're 2 to 3, and after that you're kind of range 1 for a lot of your shots. I don't know. Like, this stuff's going to take some testing, but I think it's also kind of like heroic, like where with these calculates and their ability to share. It's like, imagine if you could share that focus token with all those A-wings and then get it to the guy who has advanced optics, you know, like the fact that they can share those calculates, and with this Kraken where they can build them up. I don't know. I think it's kind of perfect. I don't know.
Really?
It's like the best version. Yeah, it's like the best version of that mechanic. You know, it's like where they can spend, the guy who's getting shot can spend them on defense and still shoot it.
All right, walk me through that because I was away. So what do you got? You got 7 droids here in a list or something?
We're just talking through a bunch of different ideas, but this last one was 6 of them with the energy cell charge, and then Wat Tambor with Kraken.
Gotcha.
How many points does that leave you with?
3.
Put Treacherous on Tambor.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Because you got them all. You got them all like around them, trying to give him his reroll ability. But on top of that, they're obstructing that shot potentially at Tambor.
God, I like that. Yeah. Who knows if it's good, but like
it's 7 ships.
Yeah, it's 7 ships, and they all have 3 dice theoretically.
Yeah, and one of them's hyper modded. Soon, like that round 2 engagement, that Wat Tambor looks super scary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
I just was playing around with like, well, what if I had like the Dooku crew carrier with the probe droids and then a second infiltrator with Maul, Hate, Palp, like the one we built before, and then put that other droid to give Maul that calculate.
Yeah.
And then just say, try and kill my Maul, because I'm going to Dooku and evade. I'm going to add an evade. I'm going to knock down another shot if I need with Grievous. That Maul's never dying.
Yeah, it's incredible. I really like that.
But on top of that, though, like I have 12 points remaining, and I have no clue where to put it, other than just like, I don't know, let's put a shield upgrade on Maul. I have 8 points left. I don't. Wait, I have 12 points. Proton torpedo Maul.
There you go. There you go.
What monstrosity is this you're talking about now?
So this I don't think this is good, because this is the idea that this is basically a 200 point squad built around Maul.
Correct. It's bad, but
it is the Hate, Grievous crew, Palp crew, Scimitar, K2B4 Maul we've built before, and then
Hate, Grievous, Palp.
Yep. And then that other droid that could pass the calculate to drive that K2B4, so DFS 311.
Right.
And then another infiltrator, the pilot is O66, Dooku crew, and DRK probe droids.
Somebody was Dion was flying a double Sith list tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I think it's interesting how I can build up this Maul.
So Dooku crew and what else?
On the O66, the DRK probe droids in the device slot.
Gotcha.
And you just say probe droids go out, get Maul his target lock.
I'm still 9 points shy. I've got Hate, Proton Torps, Palp, Grievous,
Scimitar title,
right,
and then K2B4 in the tactical relay slot.
I missed all that. All right, and then we're at 200. Gotcha. Yeah, there you go.
Again, like that Vulture droid's doing no damage, probably, and that infiltrator that's not Maul might do a little. This is 100% going off of I'm shooting someone with proton torpedoes, and then I'm shooting at someone else with my primary or something. So I don't know. That Maul that says good luck doing damage to me in the first engagement seems like one of the better Mauls if you're putting upgrades on him. If you are holding back upgrades and kind of keeping him lean, I think Hate, Scimitar, Grievous crew might be the cheapest you should go. Like, it's whether or not you have room for Palp crew and where you're putting your TAC relay. Because I think, we built that, the Seer and the 3 Precise Hunters gave us 8 points, and we could still have the TV94 on Seer for that Uber bullseye. Yeah, we had 3 points left. So I don't know, 75-point Maul seems good. Hate, Grievous, Scimitar, that's it.
Yeah, it feels strong.
Yeah, it's either something between the 75 and the 94. I mean, when you add 14 points of Force crew that says I'm Rebel Captive, that seems still pretty good.
For sure. Yeah, I always like comparing these, though, to 1.0 prices, like the 37.5 points for that. Like, feels.
Oh, yeah.
Like, feels really good.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Like, it's basically IG-88B with less action economy, but in a meta that is where that double tap is way better than B's was. I don't know. Like, I feel pretty good.
I think that's so cool that you can build that Watt Tampor Treacherous Kraken and 6 energy shell vultures.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to start, I think.
Literally call that the Techno Union Army.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, these are my droids.
It feels on purpose.
Yeah.
That's exactly 200.
And again, I love this part of the droid with the network calculations. I'm not forced to be range 1 of everything. I can do 3 teams of 2, 2 teams of 3, or a giant blob. I think making that decision in your matchup that you have could be actually pretty critical in deciding a victory or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. That doubt. Man, I haven't really looked. I know these things have a weird dial, but I haven't really paid attention to it. Yeah.
It is a super weird dial.
The 1K turn is hilarious, man.
You were running the Watt Tambor with Treacherous and the 6 droids. What? And you had energy shell charges on all of them. What else did you have? You had
every droid had energy shell charge, and then Watt Tambor had Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Kraken. That was the 10 points. Gotcha.
Yep. And the other one I want to try, like I mentioned earlier, was the... Wait, why does it... Oh, I can't have Treacherous. That's right. The Watt Tambor, 4 vultures, 2 of them with energy shell. Watt has Kraken, and then you got that Grievous on the flank with Soulless 1. I'm not even sure if he needs Soulless 1, but it's just that if I don't have it, I have 12 points remaining, and I don't know, 2 more energy shell charges, and I have 4 points left.
Isn't there another thing they can take that...
Discord missiles?
Oh, impervium plating. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's actually solid. That's the before you dealt face up ship. Yeah, I mean it's better than old. It's not better because you can't do it to face down. But anytime you're dealt to face up, you just say I want it just gone.
Yeah, the integrated astromech. Yeah. And you don't have to lose an astromech in the process.
So you could put impervium plating on him instead. You have 6 points, and then either put 1 Discord missile on one of the drones or 1 energy shell charge, and you have 2 points left. Maybe Tambor or Grievous take crack shot or something.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to put Discord missiles on something to see what I can do with it. It's 2 points more than energy shell charges. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Although, granted, when Gordon mentioned he's, energy shell charges and some of them may never get off because you're spending your calcs to stay alive. Discord's before everyone shoots, and you might be sacrificing that vulture and saying, you know what, he's the least modded guy, but you know what, he's gonna say this area right here, don't go here, or if you're already here, well, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So just to try it, I might throw in Discord missiles anyway. Because, I mean, Grievous's title does make him a better endgame ship when, like you say, I get 2 more hull. And on top of that, while I defend, if the attacker's outside my arc, I may reroll a defense dice. Like, I have kind of Lone Wolf. Like, oddly, the best thing for an opposing ship to do against Grievous is to straight up joust at arc to arc.
Yeah, which is what Grievous wants if in the end game, right? At PS4 or Initiative 4.
Well, he doesn't get his. He needs to be shooting outside the defender's firing arc to get his rerolls on attack, and then his defensive title Soulless one is if the attacker's outside your firing arc. So if they've arc dodged you, you get a reroll on defense. But if you are out, if you're not in their firing arc, you get 2 rerolls. So like if someone jousts you, that actually less benefits Grievous.
Right, but I guess my point is that if it's against Poe, he's not going to shoot him unless Poe goes into his arc, on purpose.
Yeah.
So at least he has a shot at shooting back. So it incentivizes him being able to at least trade shots.
Yeah, people who are still in the shit show, I mean, you are getting like list build testing the show at this point.
Yeah.
It's a good starting point.
I mean, where else? So, I mean, I built at least 3 or 4 separatist lists I look at where I'm like, I'll try this. It's the Maul 4 vultures, or the Watt Tambor 6 vultures, or the Grievous Watt and 4 vultures. I'm probably going to start with one of those 3. And then it's their Republic.
Yeah. Oh my god, I don't even know where to start. There's so much.
I had a very specific area where I wanted to start, and it was
7th Fleet gunner stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So what I wanted to fit originally was Plo Koon, CLT, Wolf 7th Fleet, Sinker 7th Fleet, and a Torrent. Ideally, a Torrent that had dedicated or Tucker. That does not fit. I mean, it can fit, but no CLT, and the Torrent is just the base Torrent.
Oh, okay.
I like Plo Koon with the 7th Fleet Gunner because he can use his ability at the start of engagement to where if Plo Koon doesn't have a shot, he can just take the disarm token from his buddies.
Right.
Which is nice. They can keep shooting. So I was like, well, that sucks. I can't. So I was like, all right, what can I drop first? Sinker's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Like 12.
These named ones are, yeah, Sinker being 12 more points than the base feels pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, so I immediately was like, all right, what if I just drop to the base guy? Okay. Now I have 38 points to work with. So my Torrent can now be, if it's Tucker, then I can't fit CL. This is why like CLT really bugged me in its pricing. And it's maybe just because I'm trying to build a specific list and I can't do it, and oh no. But CLT still feels a little bit expensive, and so do the Torrents. The Torrents, but I mean, if you were to look at like just 30-point ships, Wampa, Seavor, are those 1 point less than Tucker?
Not value wise.
No.
Yeah.
Like I can take Seavor for 1 less point, and his 2-die shot says here's a jam.
Yeah.
Or if you shoot me, like all Tucker does is say I evade. So sure, I guess he'll guarantee an evade and he'll get a focus when someone is friendly attacks. But that I'm not sure. I think they were concerned about the synchronized council being 2 points, and that something, if they made the Torrents cheaper, made that an issue. But then why didn't you just make the Torrents cheaper and the synchronized council more points?
Exactly. Yeah. Like it feels to me that if they're worried about like if they ever release a good missile with that synchronized console, like because the thing when I saw that I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was 2 points. That's pretty crazy. So it's just like that and homing missile, it's like
sure,
it's like, oh, if you have 3 of those things, like, hey, here's 3 damage, but that's a ton of points for 3 damage. That's terrible. So I don't get that. I don't get the pricing for a lot of these things. Like why? Like I feel like the A-wing pricing is pretty perfect. Like for the resistance, like obviously, like all of it's probably a little too low.
Yeah.
But the fact that like Tally is only like a couple more points, or is she the same as the green, or is she like a point more? It's
Tally's 35, which
and
is
where the green start.
RZ2 green's 34.
34, yeah. So she's literally 1 more point than green for 2 PS and her pilot ability. And like that is a way more interesting choice than a ton of these other ones where it's like, why would I ever, why would you ever take Oddball for that amount of points in that chassis? It's
Oddball being the same amount as Lulo just baffles me and tells me that yes, the RZ2s are probably going to go up. I'd hope so based on this point cost. But is it too... I mean, if the next points update is supposed to be in July, that sounds way too far away for the points that they made these Torrents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have just made the Torrents cheaper and then fixed them both later.
Exactly, yeah.
And actually, you bring up a good point. I didn't notice that. The homing missile thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
because you don't have to spend that.
Yeah, like... If enough of them get the lock and you get the homing missiles rolling, you either let them roll the 4 or you just take the 1 and pass it on to the next guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's fun. It gets cool, but it's like, I don't know how good that actually is. Because
Sure.
it's kind of like, it's like a bunch of ships that are only shooting ion cannons,
Well,
It's
let's see if we say what would be a good enabler of all this. So I think
that's where my theory crafting fell apart too.
oddball naturally has good ways to enable this.
Just with
So if we just go, yeah. How many do we get before we get into a round Jedi status here? Okay, so we can't go there. Go there. So oddball and a V19 torrent, homing missiles synchronized, and 3 golds with homing synchronized give us 59 points.
yeah, sure.
So if we put battle meditation on a Jedi Knight, it's only 48, so now we can go up to better Jedi.
Then battle meditation.
Battle meditation Luminara with oddball, homing missiles, synchronized council, and 3 of those. She's got 4 points left. Or Mace Windu has a lot of force. Mace Windu would probably be better because he's not using his force for his ability.
Yeah.
So you can do battle meditation Mace, oddball homing missile synchronized council, and 3 gold squadrons with homing missile synchronized council. Meh?
Yeah.
Meh? I mean, it's there. Doesn't mean it's good.
Mm-hmm. It's 4 automatic damage to something.
Unless they actually want to take the shot.
Right. Which you kind of hope that they do, right?
Yeah. And so in a combination, you use you battle meditation the target lock at I4, which unfortunately may not be enough, but it's what you have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
From Mace. And then at I5, oddball gives himself a lock. So essentially 3 of these torrents are going to get locks. One of those 3 is at least likely to pass on to the last guy.
Yeah.
An oddball just needs to fully execute a red or basically do a barrel roll, link to evade, and have something in his bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reds on that dial, I guess. If you 3 bank and line it up, so
Yeah, it feels terrible.
Yeah. It's like, well, let's see.
Weirdly, what's hilarious is the things that this is best against are like these droids with just the 3 hole. It's like, oh yeah, one of those is dead no matter what.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just something to pull up at that point. But I think what I've kind of settled to trying is Plo Koon, still trying to find a way to fit in CLT, and do the Arc, Wolf, because Wolf is so good.
Yeah, Wolf feels very strong.
Yeah, and then a 104th Battalion pilot, just base dude with 7th Gunner.
Weirdly, I kind of like Jag.
So I was going between Jag or Wolf because Jag...
He's like Bastion a little bit.
Yeah, Jag allows me to take Tucker as a torrent, which I think naturally is a better torrent.
Sure.
But what I like about Wolf is his rerolls that he gets are self-contained.
Yeah, that's true.
But Jag obviously can acquire a lock, which is more rerolls than just 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he can get rerolls out the back if he needs it, where Wolf does not.
Yeah, I just wish you could punish them shooting Jag as much as you can punish them shooting Maul. Like that's the other part is if you take Wolf or Jag, there's nothing that punishes them for shooting them other than saying I'm not shooting Plo Koon. Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I guess in that case, it's like you're leaving my I5 Jedi for last, which isn't great, but also that I5 Jedi like highly benefits from at least having 1 7th Fleet Gunner still on the board.
Right.
To give him that 1 5 dice whammy.
Yeah, absolutely. Man.
So, I mean, I guess playtesting works. They didn't give us the most powerful thing.
Right, yeah.
Like, ideally, I was like, man, Sinker giving Plo Koon rerolls and giving giving Wolf more rerolls and giving him rerolls at the rear, and then this and then this and this. I was like, well, I guess there's a reason why that doesn't fit.
Right. Would have been nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to start getting this on the table.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I have to buy. Like, I will have a Republic squad available sooner to me than a Separatist squad because I have an Infiltrator, a Servants of Strife pack, and a Vulture Droid pack coming from.
Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna check my order. I thought I got 2. Did I get 2 Servants of Strife from them? I think I did. Like, literally everything is coming from them. Is Gordon? Are you still alive? Or is he still not back?
He's not talking, so I'm guessing he's not back.
Yeah.
Man, all my locals keep calling him Wolfie. It's driving me nuts.
Oh.
I love that.
Oh yeah, I only ordered 1 Service of Strife pack, 1 Infiltrator, 1 Vulture. So, like, I can still, like, I don't want to buy a second Infiltrator anytime soon, nor do I really ever want to. But I do need to buy a Service of Strife and 1 more Vulture pack. But that doesn't give me a list. It gives me 1 Belbalab and 3 Vultures.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't play with that. If I want to play with something, I have to buy 2 Arcs and a Guardians of the Republic pack.
Mm-hmm.
Which, time to do the math. How much money am I spending? I was lucky to get free shit from Atomic.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it was a combination of the top 50 invitational that Tim Hilton hosted.
Mm-hmm.
And if you made top 4, you got some store credit.
Oh, nice.
And then if you played in Crate Cup, if you got the top 8, which shout out to Sarah, I think she's still listening. She won the tiebreaker to make us be one of the teams in the top 8 in a Smash Brothers tiebreaker. So she won in Smash Brothers, and she got us each, like, they gave entire teams basically $50 per person in store credit.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that was top 8. So I'm not sure if the alternates got it too. I assume they did.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 times 4 times 50. Holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
They gave out $1,600 worth of store credit to the top 8 of Crate Cup.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So thanks, Chris Allen, for helping. I mean, I'm assuming most of that money was just from, because each person had to pay $25 per team. So there were 41 teams, 4 people per team, $25 a person at least, not including any alternates. So looks like there was enough to take care of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so $39.99 Servants of Strife, $39.99 Guardians of the Republic. Oh boy, $29.99. Another Arc, $29.99. Oh, numbers getting worse. All right. Oh, fun. Forgot what it was like to drop over $150 on X-Wing in one day.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The conversion kits were so nice to us. Everything since then has been easy.
Exactly.
See anything interesting if you're still building?
I'm not. Well, it's like a lot of stuff where I'm just like, these Jedi, I feel like the thing they're best at, or the ones that are the best, that aren't things like Luminara, where they're just enabling the other ones, they just seem like they're really good at turning around. Whether it's Mace or Anakin, or even Ahsoka. And it's like these things just want to dance a little bit. So it's kind of just going to be like what they feel like on the table.
Unfortunately, I think the only Jedi that may see very low amounts of play is Barriss Offee.
Is she the one who adds attack, like the?
She's like the opposite of Luminara.
Luminara, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but she's only got one force. While a friendly ship at range 0-2 performs an attack, if the defender, so if your friendly ship has the bullseye, bears off, you may spend a force charge to change one eyeball to a hit or one hit to a crit. I just don't see that as necessary.
Yeah.
And she's only 1 point cheaper than Luminara, and Luminara is, like I said, it's a new age sensor jammer, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's way better. Like not being in a bullseye is way easier than being in a bullseye.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a lot better.
And actually, I was looking at Luminara and supporting a bunch of Arc 170s, because if there's one thing we also figured out with sensor jammer, it's good on high health.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm
like
curious.
Luminara fits with 3 base arcs with 7th fleet gunner.
That's and nothing on her.
Nope. There's 3 points left. Yeah, nothing I'd probably put on anything else other than
7th fleet. Is it 1-2 or 0-2? Or yeah, it's got to be another.
Oh, it's just have a friendly like.
Oh, there is no. Yeah.
That's no range. It's just arc, and you have 2 arcs.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice.
I mean, I guess you can give one of them tactical scrambler. One of them's got to be the lead guy. It's not terrible. Or just take a 3-point bid. Because that, like, it's a huge jump. I wonder if they're putting a lot of value into being able to take dedicated. Dedicated's already 3, and the jump from the base arc to the next one up, which is only 1 initiative. Granted, it's beating the Rebel Beef from I2 to I3, but it's 5 points just to get a talent slot in 1 initiative.
It's crazy.
That seems like if we compare it to the Torrent's at 25 at I2 goes up to I3 at 29 with a talent. That's all you're gaining is talent and 1 initiative.
I don't get that.
And like you're basically telling someone, here's a 4 to 5 point tax just to take your faction's card, which is 3 points. So you're paying 7 to 8 points just for that card.
Yeah, that's crazy. And take a strain to reroll. Man.
I mean, it's not bad when you like. I like dedicated on that one random torrent that's going to help your Jedi worry about his blades.
Yeah. It's good for like, protecting Anakin. But
it's just the points don't shake out well. Like you're saying, I can help be dedicated to somebody for 32 points on a base torrent.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If you wanted
long term, I'm way more excited about Republic, but just in our discussion tonight, all the fun seems to be happening with the Separatists. This is where all the crazy stuff is.
Well, it's the crazy just amount, but there's also there's some crazy multipliers you can put together with those 7 fleet gunners.
Yeah, for sure. Which is pretty nice. Like,
I mean, so
all these guys are going to shoot. Like, they're almost none of these ships with what you can do are going to get 1-rounded.
No, and I wonder if there's 2 general routes to the competitive side of Republic builds. One of them starts with 2 Arc 170s. Both of them have 7th Fleet Gunner. Like, that's your baseline. I can add another one, or I can add a Jedi and something else.
Right.
Or I can have 3 of them, like Luminara and and obviously her. Or are you trying to fly the multiple Jedi, and one's a little more supportive and one's clearly your end game?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair characterization of what they're going to be looking at. But yeah, so if you're building around that 7th fleet gunner, Luminar would just battle. What do you have? 33. Yeah, that's such an awkward number. But I was just looking at battle meditation with Luminara just to enable those, like just double mod those shots.
Oh yeah, and it's unfortunate. Like if you try and do Luminara battle meditation, you only can do 2 arcs, but those arcs are super modded on their shots versus
Right.
when it's and you can actually fit a torrent that's either dedicated or Tucker at that.
Oh,
30.
okay, that's what you were talking about earlier. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you don't have like Luminara. Then it's pretty much if your arcs die, that might be the game.
Yeah, exactly.
If you haven't killed enough, it's not like the torrent or Luminara can end game that well.
Yeah, and it's not like and like those 2 points left over if you throw in Tucker. Like, oh, it'd be amazing if you could jump to the PS3s with these guys, and then that feels a little better. But like at least your initiative killing something. But having to jump 5 points for each, it's just like what the heck. Yeah.
So let's see. What if we did that and that and oh, okay, so this is a potential thing. Going along the lines of like supporting thing plus Big Jedi. Do Anakin with just Delta 7B, just base Luminara, and Wolf having 7th Fleet Gunner and Palp crew.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because to me, Wolf is the best single use arc.
Sure.
And his 7th Fleet Gunner can help boost Anakin or even Luminara's shot. So Anakin could be shooting 4 dice at range, whatever, with Delta 7B.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wolf can still shoot his shot that's also 4. And you can have, like in the early game, that Palp can stay Rebel or the Rebel captive side.
Yeah, help.
But if you put R4 Astromech on Anakin, he can do some shenanigans as Sidious. Because you could coordinate with Wolf, and the coordinated ship Anakin gains a stress, so he could take an action. He could take the evade, get a force back, because it says then it gains 1 focus or recovers a force.
Yeah.
So you can either say, I'm going to take an evade by spending a force with my action, and then either get a focus to have focus evade, or have free evade and take the force back. Anakin does his now many more blue moves. He can any 2 or any 1 is blue. Clear that stress and then do his thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like Palp with Anakin for sure. Like that feels amazing.
Yeah, and I think Wolf might be the better carrier of it just because he's the best lone arc.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just have Luminara to say whatever you're shooting at is going to be sensor jammered unless you got the bullseye.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad for sure.
And you may not even need R4 Astromech. Because Anakin has an ability to clear his stress well enough anyway with his ability.
Right. You just have to spend the force to do it. But yeah, it's not like he's got a ton of other things to spend force on. Like he's really just passive modding almost everything. So
yeah,
that's not bad. Because you're sitting at 198 with R4.
Yeah, and I'd even consider dropping down just to have a little bit of a bid.
At least something nominal. Yeah, that's the thing I'm curious about to see at what comes out of DEFCON 2 bid-wise. I mean, it's not going to last long, any of that data with Wave 3 now immediately out. But
yeah, like bids were obviously down recently, but then Anakin is a thing now, and other Jedi are a thing. Separatists are definitely not going to push any of the bids.
Yeah.
I mean, if bidding goes back up a bit, how much? I mean, now we've also added Soontier into the mix in hyperspace. Also may push the bids.
Yeah.
We've added Guri, who loves bids.
Mm-hmm. Man.
So,
Yeah.
I think we're going to say goodbye to all the live audience.
Yep, I'm with you.
And I'm going to stop broadcast. I'll make sure I get this timestamp. 1:25. Good night, everybody.